Welcome back, guys. My guest today is an incredible content creator and an expert in his field. He's the host of the Wealthy Way podcast. You guys have probably seen him all over. He specializes when it comes to content creation and real estate and several other ideas as far as creating businesses. Please welcome Ryan Pineda to the podcast. How you doing, man?
What's up, man? Good to connect again.
Good to connect. So here's the thing. First of all, I want to ask you, what position did you play when you got drafted by the A's? Were you shortstop?
Second base.
You played second base. What was that? What was that like?
Man, dude, I mean, I was a baseball player my whole life, so I didn't know any better. I wasn't an entrepreneur or social media guy.
Did you, I like to ask questions that nobody's ever asked. At what point did you know, man, I might get drafted playing baseball, right? So like, are you in junior high, you're in high school, you're just throwing people out from across the field? Like, what's going on here? Are you significantly better than everybody else on your junior high team is what I'm asking?
Yeah. So I was always the best player on my team. You know, I mean, my freshman year of high school, I was playing short, batting third.
Yeah.
You know, so like, it was always like a dream.
Yeah. And then in college, so are you getting drafted like because you go to Cal State Northridge? Are you getting drafted first, or like how does it work? Because I know like so for instance, a lot of really great baseball players never played any college.
Yeah.
So how does it work?
Yeah, the really talented guys go straight out of high school.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to be in like the top 5 rounds, you should not go out of high school because I mean, once you go, you can't ever go back to college or anything. So. Yeah, I wasn't at that level out of high school, but you know, I had a full ride to Cal State Northridge, and you know, went there. And my freshman year, I was an All-American. I was the Player of the Year freshman year.
Is Cal State? Is that D1?
Yeah.
Okay. Nice.
Yep. So in the Big West with all these other Cal State schools like Fullerton and Irvine and Long Beach that you know are traditionally good baseball schools.
Yeah. And then you get drafted by the Oakland A's.
Junior year.
What is this? What is this feeling like? Explain to me. Because I imagine at this point, because you're not trying to be an entrepreneur at this point.
Yep.
This is before the couch flipping.
Way before.
Right.
Yep.
Imagine at this point you're like, so I never thought about joining the military when I was in high school or in college. Never thought. And then I joined the military. My dad was he worked in finance. I ended up being a stock option seller. Like I ended up doing almost exactly what my dad did, except he was doing it with annuities and insurance. I almost do it but at no point in my life was like, yeah, that's what I want to do. At this point, I'm pretty sure you're thinking I'm playing pro baseball. Like this is all I want to do for the rest of my life. What is this feeling like getting drafted and then go through that whole arc?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting, right? Because my freshman year of college, like I said, I had a lot of success. And so I was really high on like, okay, this is one of the top freshmen in the nation. He could be a potential really high round pick. And so, you know, I ended up playing in the Cape Cod League, which is like the most prestigious baseball league. It's where every first rounder would go. And I did super good my freshman year. So I'm like, dude, I'm about to be the man. This is great. Sophomore year, kind of get cocky and have a sophomore slump, right? And so I'm like, dang, dude, like, all right, got to humble myself. And so then I go into my junior year and, you know, play well.
Can you be specific? What do you attribute this to? I'm having trouble hitting be as specific as you can. I can't hit this curve. Like you're Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan, really fast running bases when he goes plays for the Birmingham Barons. I was fascinated by this idea that the greatest basketball player in the world wanted to go play baseball. And he goes there and I'm reading the scouting reports on him. He's like way above average speed, cannot hit a curveball.
Yeah.
What the scouting report on Ryan Pineda? What's going on there?
I think my junior year going into the draft, I had speed. I actually was second in stolen bases in the league. I actually had power too. I led the league in home runs. But I was already kind of maxed out. I mean, this size you see me at now, it was what I was, right?
So there's no D-ball for...
Yeah, like that. There's no... And, you know, with metal bats in college, it's easier. So, like, I think the scouting report on me would have been, you know, yeah, he might be able to hit. We'll see with the wood bat. Defense was subpar. Speed was okay. Hitting was good, you know, so he's going to have to hit his way through the minors to get up there.
Wow. Okay. Awesome. Yeah. I was always wondering about that because I'm listening to this story and like you have to understand for the 99% of the population, we're not getting drafted by the Oakland A's. Yeah. And so it's always interesting to me because whenever you see a guy who plays even D1 college football, he was the best player on his junior high team. He was the best player in high school. He played both ways. Yep. You know what I'm saying? He was the best fielder. So it's always interesting. Like when you get to that point, I have a friend of mine. He played he was in high school. He was incredible. He goes and plays D1 basketball at Liberty and he's like an incredible shooter. And then he realizes, oh wait, I have to guard people. I have no chance against these athletes because these guys are incredible. And there's this moment for me, it's in high school. Like I can't, like I'm just not big enough to play offensive line. And when I get to college, because I just know that transition's not going to happen for me.
Yeah. Well, I think what happens is each step of the way, you kind of get hit with a new reality check, right? So it's like, all right, we go into high school. You're like, oh, dude, these guys are 4 years older than me. You know, these seniors. And so you got to prove yourself. And then you get into college and you're like, wow, all these guys are the best players in their high school, like nationwide. This is crazy. Then you get into pro sports and it becomes even different because not only are these the best players in high school and college, but they're the best players all over the world.
Yeah.
And so now all of a sudden we're competing against these Dominicans, these Venezuelans, these Mexicans, these guys who literally have nothing to lose. This is it for them. If they don't make it in baseball, they're done. There's nothing else. And so, man, dude, you see that level of competition and that happens every step of the ladder in the minor leagues. You're like, all right, cool. These are the guys in rookie ball. These are the guys in A ball. And you're like, dude, you just realize how good people keep getting at every level.
And that the reason why I also wanted to bring that up in that whole arc is because this is what you see in business. You really think you're doing something, and then you meet somebody whose sales team is so much more dialed in than yours, whose ad spend, like they know exactly what they're doing. They're A/B testing everything, and you're like, whoa, man, I thought I had this figured out because I made a couple of funny TikTok clips, you know, and then you get into this situation where like these people are, again, I love I'm friends with Wes Watson, and Wes Watson like, $3 million a month with no sales team. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And you think you're doing good, and then you like listen to Hermosi's numbers, or you listen to you talk to I was with not Ryan Stewman, Dan Fleischman. I was at his birthday party a couple of weeks ago, and you see this ranch. It's like, and it's $300,000 a month for upkeep. I'm like, good God, bro. I had Neil Patel over here. It's like, I'm trying to. I spend about $340,000 a month on me and my family. That's like, I don't write any of this off, and I'm trying to bring it down to like $180,000. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then you kind of realize it's the same thing. You get to the next step, and even in business, like you don't even realize how far people are gone.
Yeah. Neil called me the other day because he was selling his $20 million home. He's like, what do you think I should do with the money? I'm thinking about 1031 and into real estate, and I'm like, you can give it to me. We'll go buy some other stuff.
Yeah.
And it's just like, he's like, I'll sell it. I still got another $20 million home over here. Like, it's all good.
When you talk to Neil, it's so crazy when you talk to Neil. He's like, this is, because he talks about it's a game for him. It's like people who make more money, people are better at the game of business. He calls it the game of business.
Yeah.
I heard, maybe I heard you, but I heard Hermosi say the same thing. And I wonder if maybe they got it from the same place, but they talk about the game. Anyone who's making more money than you is just doing better at that business. And there's no reason for you to hate them. It's just try to learn from them.
Yeah. Well, I think for me, you mentioned the podcast, The Wealthy Way. A lot of people play the game of business and it's like, all right, the game is judged by how much money you make, right? For me, that's not really what I'm after. I think money's going to come as a byproduct of doing the right actions over and over. But the game is so much bigger than just making money, right? It's your health, your family, your faith, and all these other things that, man, dude, you can make all the money in the world, but if you're fat and out of shape, I wouldn't trade places with you.
For sure.
So there's a lot of different games people play. And so I just try to play the game I'm currently in.
Cole Hatter talks about make money matter. So making money and then using that in order to help some sort of philanthropic thing. By the way, next week or this Saturday we're hosting an animal rescue charity over at the Ahern.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, we're raising money for Foster Friday Foundation. And the idea that like using your connections with these huge influencers in order to raise money, that's something I like. And then like you said before, Ty Lopez, he was on here and he would say, I have several friends that are billionaires and I wouldn't trade places with any of them. And Ty Lopez is obviously very wealthy, but in his situation, he's like, there's no balance. And like you said before, being in shape.
Yeah.
Like if you're going through kidney failure and you're a billionaire, like what is that worth to you?
No,
like,
you'd give it all up.
Yeah.
You could rebuild. But it's funny is you mentioned all those guys and they've all spoke at my event. I hold an event called Wealthcon, and so Neil was at one this year. Hormozi was. Who else? Cole Hatter speaking at the next one. Dan Fleischman speaking at the next one. Like they're all ballers, man. I've talked to Wes Watson too, and so he's going to speak at one.
Be ready for Wes.
I know. What? I'm like, I don't cuss at all. Yeah. And so like, I'm like, I don't know, man. We'll have to see.
You mentioned before, Brad is one of my good friends. And
I brought Brad too.
Yeah. And Brad Lee, he was like, I heard your wife's not a big fan of me because of the cussing. And the funny thing is Brad's wife is not a fan of me because, and it wasn't, she got it wrong. I don't think women should be doing OnlyFans. But we had a discussion about the business model of OnlyFans and what it's doing to the dating market. And I was like, there's these people out here who are living at home making $300,000 a month, filming with their spouse. And I wasn't saying it was a good thing. She sees the clips and she's like, I can't believe you had this guy on the show. He's saying, and I was like, no, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. Like my girlfriend doesn't do OnlyFans. Like that's not the point. But it's really interesting because you said that you said that your wife does like all the cussing with Brad.
Yeah.
I'll tell you with Wes. He goes on stage one time. This is a story I've heard this from Wes, and I've heard this from Ryan Stewman. He goes on stage one time. He goes, I'll take your effing wife, and I'll kill you, mother. And I'll take your wife. He's on stage, and he goes, and I got the paperwork to prove it because he went to jail 10 years for attempted murder. And I was like, oh my God, could you imagine? You know what I'm saying? Like Wes communicates in a very different way. So yeah, it's a really interesting thing.
Brad's not that extreme.
Yeah.
He doesn't serve time.
Yeah, Brad,
that I know of.
That you don't know about yet. So here's the thing. Let's go to this. The first thing that you do that's viral, and we all had like one thing. It's funny because you have like a guy who's like maybe a gambler, and the first time he hits it big, it like gets him hooked into the whole thing, right?
Yeah.
And for me, it's like the first time you do a couple of interviews or you have a clip that goes viral, you're like, oh wait, I can do something with this. The first thing that goes viral for you that I still don't even fully understand is the idea of you flipping couches. Mm-hmm. At first, I thought it was a metaphor for something.
There's a deeper meaning.
Yeah. So when I'm doing research, I have two researchers and myself. We're doing research for this. Fresh and Fit are friends of mine, and I'm watching this thing where you're talking about flipping couches, and I'm like, well, okay, is this a metaphor for something? But no, you were literally buying couches off Craigslist, washing them, and then reselling them.
Yeah. Like I said, I was in minor league baseball, and people don't know, but you don't make any money in the minor leagues.
Sure.
I was making literally $7,000 a year.
We're in single A at this point.
Yep.
Okay.
$7,000 a year was my paycheck. Mm-hmm. And so I needed a job in the off season. And so 2010, I became a realtor, hated it. The market was really tough. These houses you see today selling for $500,000, they were $100,000 back then. Mm-hmm. And, you try and make a commission, you'd barely make anything. So didn't like being a realtor. Well, I get married in 2013. So I got married super young. My wife just turned 21. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, I guess I got to be a provider now. I can't just be this guy making no money. And so we move into our apartment together, and I buy all the furniture on Craigslist because that's all we could afford. Anyways, I'm looking at the furniture one day and I'm like, man, I got such good deals on these. Like, I've always been a little hustler. I used to flip cell phones and other things too. I was like, I bet you that couch I just bought for $100, I could have sold that for like $400 if I really wanted to. And then it just clicked. And I was like, why wouldn't I just do that every day? That would make way more money than what I currently do. And so I tested it. I went and bought a couch, made a couple $100. I was like, dude, this is a business. So ended up renting out a storage unit, bought a little truck for $1,500. And then I was like off to the races, trying to flip anything and everything.
Wow, that's awesome. Now, in the situation you mentioned before, like you would wash you would just strip the covers off, and you'd wash them, and then you just resell it again. Yeah. Which is funny because we're going to talk about wholesaling in a little bit, which reminds me, it feels very similar. Yeah. Or some sort of value, any kind of value arbitrage.
It definitely prepared me for it. Yep.
And then you end up going viral from it. And do you go viral like it's unironically viral, or are people just like shocked by how well this works? Or how you mentioned there's also Facebook groups where people are now still couch flipping. Yeah. How does that whole situation work for you in the beginning?
Well, so I did this for a couple of years and ended up maxing it out to about $8,000 a month net. And so I was like, dude, this is great. And eventually I get into house flipping later on. And I'm like, all right, no longer do I need to do this because house flipping's now making way more.
Sure.
So anyways, I get into content in 2020 because everybody's locked up during the pandemic. Yes. And I'm like, what am I going to make content about? And so I'm making all this real estate content and everything else. And one day, as I'm brainstorming, this week's ideas, I'm like, all right, what can I make a video on that people haven't heard before? And I was like, man, I used to do this couch flipping thing like 5 years ago I bet it would help somebody if I just talked about it.
Yeah.
So sure enough, I make this freaking 15-minute YouTube video. I'm just like, all right, guys, you're not going to believe this, but this is what I used to do before flipping houses, and here's how to do it, blah, blah, blah. And what's funny is, I mean, it popped off for me with a small, I had like 3,000 YouTube subscribers, and, I posted on TikTok and it got 1 million views. And I was like, whoa, that got 1 million views, like the 1 minute version of how to flip a couch. I was like, that's crazy. I bet you they're going to like it you know, if I do more of this. So I put it out on YouTube. It does really well for me at that time, gets a few thousand views, right? And I'm like, wow, that video went viral for me. And then I don't know at what point, but maybe like a month later, it just took off. People just started catching it. And it became this thing where they were like, dude, I saw your couch flipping video. I would get recognized for that over anything. I was like, this is crazy. All these people are flipping couches.
I actually have a real estate fund now. If you haven't checked that out, you might want to check that out.
Yeah, I can help you in much better ways. But if that's what you want to do, tight.
Yeah. That must be incredible, man. Anyway, go. My question is: you're now go into content creation. You mentioned you bought Graham Stephan's course.
Yeah.
And it was on you. It wasn't on real estate. It was on YouTube.
Yeah.
Can you talk about what you learned from that? And like, is this the first course that you buy? I don't know if it's a high ticket course. I don't know how much it is, but is this the first course you buy?
No. Everything Graham does is low ticket.
Okay.
We're buddies now.
Yeah.
But no, so I had been investing in education for a long time. I mean, I'd been in business masterminds, paid 30 grand plus. And so, you know, it was natural for me to say, okay, if I want to get into content, what do I do? So, you know, long story short, how it happened was I was already crushing it in real estate. So I was flipping 100 plus houses a year, and we're locked up during the pandemic. I literally have 50 house flips going on here in Vegas. And I'm like, man, are these all about to go under? Like, you know, everybody's talking about who knows, right? So I start getting some DMs on Instagram. At the time, I had like 10,000 Instagram followers. That was it. I didn't have a TikTok. I didn't have a YouTube. I didn't have any of this stuff. And they were like, Ryan, you should make YouTube videos, dude. You'd be really good. And I was like, why would I make YouTube videos? That's stupid. Like, why? And they're like, dude, YouTubers make a lot of money. Like, you could really crush it. And I go, send me who these YouTubers are that are so good. So people send me Graham. They send me Meet Kevin, these guys who are now my friends. And I start watching their stuff. And I'm like, okay, so these are the real estate guys. Like, how much real estate do they do? And I mean, no offense to them, but they weren't really doing anything.
Yes.
But they were really good at content. And I was like, wait, these are the guys that you guys look up. They don't even run a business. Like they have a couple of properties.
I had this exact same conversation with a real estate agent about you, not 24 hours ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I was like, I do all this and this. And I was like, no, you don't understand. The content is what's most important.
Yeah.
But it's really hard. Like if you're, this is a really weird analogy. I do these weird debates. I'll debate people all the time. One of the debates I keep getting sucked into is flat earth debates. I debate flat earthers because because I have a background in physics. I'll have a debate with them.
I'd love to know what they think. Yeah. That's a totally different thing.
So I'll have them on and I'll have a physicist on with me. And the physicist, I will tell you right now, if you have a physicist with 3 PhDs versus a flat earther, the physicist will lose every debate. Because the physicist understands the science and the flat earther is a debater.
Yeah.
And the debater, but so it doesn't make any sense because you're like, how can you lose a debate where you're objectively correct? And you'll watch it happen and the guy just gets buried. I've seen 100 of these. That's why whenever I debate flat earthers, they yell and I yell even louder because that's the only way of winning. And so you'll watch it and you come to the realization is like the substance doesn't really mean as much as your ability to articulate the idea.
Yeah. And
so that's why, and you'll get in the same thing with guys who sell cars, guys who flip houses, guys who are in any of this content creation stuff. They'll be like, yeah, but this guy, he just makes YouTube videos. And I'm like, no, that is the thing now. And that's what people don't understand. So I tell my clients all the time, social media is fake. And I'm okay with that because the money's real. So in your situation, go back to this whole thing. Like you're skeptical because you're in the dirt flipping 100 houses.
Yeah.
So that you're doing the thing that most realtors can't do. 100 flips, get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
Sorry. And then we have this situation where you now start making content and you're like saying, is this guy as viable as me?
Yeah.
Because he's making content, but he doesn't do as much as I do. And it makes you think either one, I don't like YouTube, which a lot of people do that. I'd be like, these people are all fake. But in your case, you're like, no, I can actually produce better content.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened was I looked at them and one day they made a video talking about how much they made from YouTube. And both of them at that time, they were showing they're making a couple $100,000 a month. And I go, wait a minute, hold on. These guys are making a couple $100,000 a month and they have no employees, no risk, no overhead, no office. They have nothing. They have none of the things I have to deal with to go make that same amount of money. And I was like, I'm in the wrong business. Like it just dawned on me that I was doing the wrong thing. And I was like, these guys are actually really smart. And a lot of my buddies who are really savvy investors running big businesses, they're just mainly being haters. They're like, dude, these freaking guys, why does everybody listen to them? They should be listening to me, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, you guys got it wrong, dude. You just need to go do it.
Yes.
It's a totally different skill set. So anyways, I'm like, I'm going to go learn that skill set. So I go buy, I'm like, I'll just learn it directly. So I buy Graham's, I buy Kevin's. I go get my now friend Sean Cannell's stuff at Think Media, you know, all these guys. And I just absorb content for like a month straight of just like, hey, what do you do to be an effective YouTuber and everything else, right? So I come up with this plan and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do it. So I start making content and, you know, obviously the couch flipping was one thing, but the big takeaway that I learned was kind of like what you said was, man, dude, don't hate on it. Just do it. Yes. And I think that there's two types of people now creating content. Well, there's two types of people in the world, right? There's the person doing it and there's the person talking about it. Okay. Most people would say, well, the person doing it, man, everybody should respect them and blah, 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 right? It's like, it's true, but I mean, just think about what's been happening well before social media. Think about guys like Stephen A. Smith and whoever else that talk about it. Nobody respects Stephen A. for anything he's ever done.
I used to work with Skip Bayless at Sports Radio 1310 The Ticket in Dallas.
Yeah.
He never, I don't remember him throwing any touchdowns.
No. So like no athlete respects Skip Bayless, but you look at the career they've built and the longevity and like they're crushing it. Those two guys kill it. Yeah. And so it's like you make a lot of money talking about the thing. Now, here's the thing. The most successful people do both.
Yes.
So, you know, when Tom Brady goes and signs a new deal for $30 million a year plus to go be an anchor, it's like, well, yeah, he's earned it. He did both. And so that's how I looked at it with YouTube and business. I was like, well, if you actually do both, you're going to kill it. And I actually think that's what's happening now. It took years for it to happen, but all the guys you had just mentioned that are big on YouTube, the Hormozis and Patrick and, you know, these other guys, it's like they're the ones now getting all the traffic because all of these people who had no options, they were only watching YouTube only people before, are now saying, well, these entrepreneurs are just as good, if not better, at creating content. And it's actually like from experience. So let me go watch their stuff instead of this stuff we used to watch.
So a great example is like Cody Sanchez, right?
Yep.
Cody will make a video. So you'll think about all these people who are moguls in business. And Cody Sanchez makes this video about two things that I'm never going to be involved with, but I think it's a brilliant video. It's buying a coin-operated laundromat next to an apartment complex that doesn't have its own laundry, right? And I'm like, she talks about buying these simple businesses. And you realize, you mentioned this before too, it's like when you're talking about the basic stuff over and over again. So just think about the intermediate or advanced real estate agent or business owner or whatever. They go and look at your YouTube channel. You're talking about basic stuff. And in their mind, they're like, well, he's just talking about basic stuff because that's all he knows, not recognizing, no, this is how you grow the thing. And then I listen to Cody and she says the most simple stuff. Then I read $100 million leads. I read $100 million offer. And I'm like, how much of this stuff is groundbreaking? There's a few things in there that are groundbreaking, but most of it is like, he's taken all this great information and collated it into one place. And then the other thing that Alex does that's so genius is he says, this is how I made the money. He doesn't say, this is the greatest way to market in the world, period, and no one can argue with me. He goes, this is how I made $100 million, which gives him even more credibility in that space. And so that's what I love about this whole situation is like everyone thinks in order to be on YouTube, you need a PhD level understanding and a PhD level explanation of whatever you're doing. But instead, it's like if you can teach the simple, you can teach the white belts over and over again, that's the best way to get leads and make money.
Yeah, I remember when I was coming up in real estate, there was a lot of these real estate gurus, you know, running ads and doing coaching and stuff. And we would always hate on them because we're like, dude, this is like talking about simple crap. You know, he's not even doing that much. And you realize like, well, he's making over $10 million a year doing it this way. So, you know, who's the dummy? And he's helping more people too. Yeah. So at the end of the day, you have to go broad. There's only so much high level content you can put out. And, you know, if 99.9% of people can't even utilize it, what's the point of even putting it out? It's just kind of like to show how smart you are. Yeah. It doesn't really help anyone.
I have one accountant who's one of my clients, and he started hosting these Zoom calls. And in the Zoom calls, he would explain all these like accounting tricks that he would do. And eventually what happens is he shows so much expertise in the field that people are like, well, screw this. I'm just going to hire you to be my accountant.
Yeah.
Right. And I've seen real estate agents do the same thing. It's like they have such a high level knowledge. You're like, oh, well, just screw this. I'm just going to hire you to be my real estate agent. I imagine it's simple because you're starting a fund.
Yep.
Right. And from my standpoint, I'm like, man, man, I'm working 80 hours a week and real estate, I got to flip these 100. As soon as you said I flipped 100 houses, I'm thinking of like visiting 100 different properties in Clark County when it's 107 degrees. That was my first thought, 107 degrees, and I got to shake 100 people's hands and then wash my hands afterwards. And like, I have to deal with all these problems. And then I'm like, oh, but he has a real estate fund. Yeah. What if I just invest in this fund? How simple it is. Can you talk about that whole idea?
Yeah. So, you know, what happened was I started flipping houses, and that was how I made my money. And then I get into content, and, you know, I start teaching people how to flip houses and wholesale and all that stuff. And one of my friends goes, dude, you should just be starting a fund. I mean, that's the logical next step once you have an audience. And I said, all right. I mean, I don't really know how. Can you teach me? He goes, yeah. I mean, he already had thousands of units. So he teaches me how to start a fund, and we do our first deal together, and, you know, we raise all the capital, and, you know, now we're at, what are we at? We're over 500 units, and we're actually right now buying 132 units in Iowa. And so, yeah, now we just raise money through social media. We keep buying more real estate. And yeah, for a guy like you who's already making great money in your craft, like, why learn real estate? Yeah. Why look for deals? Why go shake the 100 hands? We'll just do it. We already have the team.
So can you talk about that real quick? The idea of the fund and, you know, you REITs or in like, what's his name? Grant Cardone, Cardone Capital. By the way, if you ever want to know what's at the end of the funnel, that's what it is. If you're with Grant Cardone, he's going to take you to the funnel, and at the very end is like invest in the real estate fund.
Yep.
In those type of situations, it's an idea where you get to participate in the markup or the gains as far as real estate without actually going literally flipping. I think about my cousin one time taking the sledgehammer to the wall, physically knocking out the wall, physically flipping the house, sweating her ass off. And I'm like, man, I don't want to do that. That sounds crazy. I guess my question for you is, when you have 100 flips going on, are you physically going to all those locations? You mentioned at one point it was very tiring for you to go meet all these people, because that's what I think about when I think about real estate, realtors, that type of situation. Is you're constantly driving to new locations and looking at. Is that what it's like?
I mean, if you're a solopreneur, sure.
Yeah.
For me, no. I mean, I don't go to our flips at all. I don't even know what we buy anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, starting out, I was every hat. You know, I'm the realtor, the project manager, the acquisitions guy, everything, right? And then eventually you hire your first guy. My first guy I hired was a project manager. So he did all the stuff I didn't want to do, and I focused on getting deals because that's where the money was at. Well, eventually, you know, you start delegating that out, and then you just focus on being kind of like at the top and running the business. And so, yeah, I mean, once my fourth year was when we got to 100 plus a year. And at that point, I was done ever going in the field and doing any of that stuff.
Wow. Okay. So when you say that, and then it's funny. Have you read Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell?
Yep. He spoke at my event too.
Beautiful. Dan's book is life-changing. My whole team is required reading now for us. I'm hiring a personal assistant now. Yep. At first I'm like, oh, why do I need a personal assistant? And then I start writing down. I do what Dan's exercise. I start writing down all these things that are taking my hours. And just for those of you who don't know, he says take your yearly salary, divide it by 8,000, and that's what you should be paying a personal assistant per hour in order to give you your hour back. Right? Real great stuff that he goes over in this book. In this situation, you start talking about the same thing. You're hiring people. You're building systems to replace you in these different arenas.
Yep.
What is that like? How are you able to build these systems and train these people?
Well, you know, the first thing I did was I hired a business coach because I never, quote unquote, had a job. You know, my only real job was playing professional baseball. So I didn't grow up in corporate America or move my way in the ranks, or I had no idea what an organizational chart was. When somebody said SOP, I didn't know what it was. Like, I just didn't know. I was just literally, I hustled my way to 100 deals in a year with no structure. It was just like, yo, you do this, I'm gonna do this. Like, intuitively, I understood delegation.
Yeah.
And like people doing what's optimal for their skill set.
Did you have meetings with people and like, hey, how are your KPIs? And
no, that wasn't a thing.
What's your EOD? What are we doing end of day? Like, I didn't understand that.
Yeah, we didn't have any of that. So anyways, 2019, the market shifted a little bit. And so that was the first time I ever lost money on flips. And I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to prevent this from happening. And so, beginning of 2020 was the first year I hired a business coach. And so, great friend to this day, his name's Gary. And you know, I paid him like 20 grand to come to my office for 3 days to teach, like, give me the quick rundown of how to do things. And so from that point forward, it all clicked. I was like, I get it now. That's how this business should be run, and we can run every business like that going forward. And so now everything's pretty plug and play. It's just like, I don't know, it's kind of just templated of how to build a business and launch it.
The plug and play component is what we want. I guess my question is so for instance, I was like, what is the most time consuming thing I do? You know what it was for me? It was doing the timestamps on my own YouTube videos.
Oh, geez.
But here's the reason why. Because the timestamp, and I would put asterisks next to the ones like, this is going to be a great clip. I knew which ones were going to be viral. So I was like, this was my responsibility to do the timestamps because then I can see which one's viral. So now I send it to the video team, and I have 10 clips. I don't make the clips, but they do. So I had 3 guys do my timestamps at the same time, and I just started hiring the one that was the best.
Yep.
And that took a little time, and it was very hard to give that away because I felt like literally, since 66% of our revenue was coming from organic, and my organic traffic was coming from the reels, and the reels were being done by the team based on the clips that I was giving them.
Right.
I was like, I'm giving this thing away to a guy that I'm paying not nearly that much, and it was very hard to give that away.
Yeah.
How do you train that guy, and how do you get over that feeling of giving that away?
Yeah, this is a big problem with entrepreneurs, right? So I'll tell you a framework I have. It's called Make, Manage, Multiply. So for anybody who's trying to make money, the first thing you got to do is stage 1, which is make. And for me, I say, figure out how to make 250 grand a year in anything. I don't care what you do. Wholesale, flip couches, freaking make content. I don't care. But figure out how to make 250. And anyone can make 250 by themselves. You don't need a big team. Okay. Stage 2 is manage. Now you got to figure out how to use that skill that you've just developed. Let's just say flipping houses today, and build a team around that skill. Now you have to teach that skill to others and have certain people do different aspects of the skill, and that's how you're going to scale. And so for me, you haven't conquered the manage stage until you've made over $1 million. And so the thing is, in the manage stage, it's the same for everyone. It's a totally new skill set. It has nothing to do with flipping houses anymore. The manage stage is all about processes, org charts, personality test, interviewing, hiring, firing, KPIs, accountability, all these things that allow you to do what we're talking about. From there, once you've conquered the manage stage, you then go into multiply. And for me, multiply is when you've earned the right to now either invest your money. You can go give it to me at Pineda Capital. You could start a new business, because so many people are like wanting to start 5 businesses when they haven't even made 250, right? Or double down on your current and say, hey, this business is $1 million. How do we get it to 4 or 5 or 10, right? So you have to go through this progression before you ever get to do anything different, because we all have like shiny object syndrome, and we're like, bro, Ryan's podcasting. I need a podcast now. It's like, well, you still need to learn how to flip a house first. Like, you don't even do that good.
Yeah. Hormozy says more, better, new. And I had to talk with my team about this idea. It's like, so we're doing something right now, and we were talking about doing a low ticket offer, and then I was going to make a course, just a business course based on like basically replicating what we did to grow our business from 40K a month to 500,000 a month. And I was like, well, we got to turn up the ad spend until it breaks. Like, we need to grow the sales team and turn up the ad spend until this current offer we have breaks. When I do double ad spend and I'm only getting 20% more ROI, then let's make a new course. But right now we're getting like 26 to 1 ROI on ads. I'm like, we need to run ads until they break.
How much are you spending on ads right now?
Not enough. It's the Facebook ad manager like kind of limits how much we were doing. We just had the limits taken off this month. So we're going to probably spend some more, but like maybe, it's not even 20,000 a month, dude. It's not that much. Yeah.
So how big's your sales team?
8, 4 closers, 4 setters.
Okay.
1 lead setter, 1 lead closer, and then 4 closers, 4 setters. That's where we're right now.
Yeah.
And we've had 600 people apply to be closers for us. And it's hard because we need a very specific type. And it helps a lot if they've gone through my program before they become a closer. So a lot of the fans of the program end up trying to do it. But that's an issue, is like the pace at which we hire.
How much is the program?
It's high ticket, so it's more than 5K.
Okay, got it. All right.
There's 3 tiers. The highest one is 20K. We have one that's higher than that. Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So that's been the issue for us scaling. It's funny because I was talking with a huge influencer recently. I was going through his program, and he had all these things written down as far as scaling. And then there was this like little thing where it goes phone sales team, and I was like, no, bro, that's not the little thing. That's the thing. That is the clog in your artery that ends up causing you to have a heart attack. That thing right there is the main thing. And he was like talking about like renting sales teams from other people, and I'm like, well, that'll work. But
it's a Band-Aid.
Well, it's a Band-Aid, but the problem is like after a while, like you're talking to a guy from India who says his name is Timothy, and like you're after a while you're like, that's not your name's not Timothy, and this is my sales team now, you know. So it's really interesting, like going through these growing pains and like growing very quickly, and then talking to serious business. Here's another thing, right? I know I'm an executive of my company, but I also know that there are people more qualified to be executives at my company than me, but not more qualified to make my content. I'm more qualified to do that, and not more qualified to do my coaching. I'm more qualified to do that, but there's somebody else should be the CEO. Somebody else with multiple master's degrees should be doing some of these other things. Yeah. And that's another thing you have to get out of your own way to come to the realization of.
Yeah. How long have you been in digital marketing?
I've been making content like this for 14, 15 years. Okay. I started a business 2 years ago doing this.
Okay, so 2 years you've been coaching. And you didn't bring on anyone with past like education experience?
Yeah, no, I have two guys. So it's really funny. The way I started my business is very, very odd. The three of us were working with a different guy, and he just ripped the three of us off.
Okay.
And we kind of started from this common place. And it was weird because we had these great ideas, and the guy who we were working for just kept stepping on it. It's really funny. He was stealing our clients to do one-on-ones for himself. He was stealing our high-ticket clients to do them for himself. So he was stealing from the business, and then he was stealing our commissions. It was crazy what was going on.
Yeah.
As soon as we cut ties with him, we were like three rabid dogs. And we tore we were so happy to be free and just working. And the other thing that happened is we were close to like three other companies, and we watched their screw ups, and we built the company on the idea that no one ever gets paid late. No one ever touches commit, like very simple, like Lee Iacocca when he took over Chrysler, very simple rules that are very basic to make us different from everyone else. And when we did that, the growth was explosive because all we did was offer value. And I think that was the part that was really great. But then we get to a scalable point where we need help from like Cole Gordon and people like that to help us get to that next point.
Yeah. No, Cole was texting me this morning actually about some different things. But you know what I've realized is it's funny because I'm very new. I mean, I hate to say it this way, but I'm actually still pretty new to business, even though it feels like I've been doing it a while. You know, I was just playing baseball my whole life.
Yeah.
Like I had no desire to do any of this. You know, I retired in 2017 and I didn't officially go full time in a business till 2018.
Yeah.
And I didn't get into digital marketing until, 2020. I didn't run my first ad until last year. And so like with that being said, what I've realized now, getting to talk to literally almost everyone behind the scenes in this internet marketing space.
Yeah.
It was funny because I golfed with one guy and he was like, yeah, dude, in the IM space and this. And I'm like, what is the IM space?
I would have said the same thing.
Yeah. He's like, internet marketing, like what you are. And I was like, first off, I'm a real estate investor. Okay. Yeah. I'm not an internet marketer.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, you're an internet marketer. And I was like, okay, whatever. So long story short, as we've been building everything out, it's funny because now that I am an internet marketer and I know all the other internet marketers who are doing it at the highest levels, I realize it's like a very small space and they've all been doing it for like 10 plus years.
Yeah.
Like every single one of them's been doing it a really long time. And for those who maybe have had a lot of success in the last few years, most of them hired like a CEO or published under a different company that, has been doing it for 10 plus years. So I was actually meeting with our team this morning and I was like, I think we might be the only team in the world that literally has no experience in what the heck we're doing and doing what we're doing, because, we became 8 figures in just 2 years and we still don't know how to run ads properly. We built a sales team from just like trial and error. We figured out landing pages and VSLs, just trial and error. We now throw 1,000+ person events every quarter, trial and like nobody's helping us.
Yeah.
And nobody throws 1,000 person event every quarter the way we do. So it's like, I look at it like our progression of how quickly we've picked it up and I'm like, okay, I like our trajectory and where we're headed, but it made me realize that it shouldn't have really happened. Like this space is really hard to break into with that experience for all the things you just mentioned about the closers and the phone team and the setters. Like nobody told us any of that.
Yeah. It's really interesting. We stole every idea. Like there's not so if I had an idea about ad spend, I was like, well, what did Ty Lopez do? How many reels should we post a day? How many does Brad do? whenever I'm like get in there and some of my content, I get really. Like,
by the way, Brad knows nothing about internet marketing.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, he knows nothing. I've tried to tell him multiple times just like how to use his DMs properly.
Yeah.
He still don't get it.
Yeah, it's funny. He sends me conspiracy theory DMs all the time.
Yeah.
No, but like the thing is, whenever I saw somebody do something well, I would just like direct a camera. I was like, man, I like that Cody Sanchez video.
Yeah.
One of the things about internet marketing is because they're doing it on the internet, you can actually copy it easier.
Yeah.
Right. If somebody has something like, you know, I'm pretty sure you're probably tired of the same 5 viral songs that everyone uses in their clips.
Yeah.
It's the same beats over and over again. Right.
Yeah.
And people use them. But I just watch other people who are successful. And then so it was like for networking, I was like, well, let me do what Dan Fleischman does. Right. So when it was like, and then also for creating content and going viral, I actually, it was Bilzerian. I was sitting in his living room one time and he goes, you know, for TikTok, what we figured out was something has to happen in the first 3 seconds, like period. And it's hard because my team a lot of time has too much context. They know what I'm saying and they forget that the audience sometimes doesn't. And so I'll go into it'll be a reel, and the beginning of a reel will be like, this is my opinion on this. And I'm like, let's cut that out. I don't want to say, the first 3 seconds needs to be an explosion, a weird word, a first 3 seconds. People have very short attention spans. And so every idea we got, Alex Becker stole a bunch of, I have a welcome video in my program that basically talks to you like you're a 3-year-old kid. Mm-hmm. And I stole it totally from Alex Becker. Alex Becker does one. He's like, you're going to want to skip around the course, but I need you to stop doing that and do what I tell you. Don't skip around the course and be a little dumb. That's how he talks. And I was like, yo, bro, I'm doing that. Like, that's exactly what I'm stealing everything he's doing. My Clips channel, I stole from Rollo Tomasi. Like all the stuff, it was somebody else we took it from. And like you said, we had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
But the thing is, this is what I love, is that there's so much information out there that's free. And then also buying courses is really great. I was going to ask you about this, the idea of like getting a college education versus just buying courses from people. It's way cheaper. These people are so much more successful.
Yep.
And so that's a way better way of doing it. But yeah, just going back to what you said, man, it was just, we were able to reverse engineer everything. Mm-hmm. And then you know what the crazy part is? When I knew we were doing well, I mean, not just because the money we were making, we started getting guys on sales calls. And so I do a meeting with my sales team every week. And we're getting guys on the sales calls. They're like, yeah, this guy was funnel hacking us. I was like, after like the 50th guy's like, they're calling us and they're asking me how much money we're making, how many ads we're running, how big the sales team is. And I was like, oh, they're just funnel hacking us. Like, that's all they're doing. And I was like, well, that's kind of a compliment.
Yeah.
The fact that we've been doing this for 18 months and we're already getting funnel hacked.
Yeah.
You know? So I imagine the same thing with you. But like, no, the 2 guys that I did it with, one of them does have a master's degree in financial mathematics, but we really didn't have experience in this.
Yeah.
We just became obsessed with doing things this way. If you look at my course, it's built like 67 steps from Tai Lopez. It's built that way. So, I mean, that's kind of where, you get the ability to do that. So your growth, that's amazing. Doing 8 figures in 2 years is fantastic, getting into the space, but also let you know how much room there is in this space, right?
Oh, for sure. Sure. It's funny because we had lunch with a guy, his name's Zach, and so, his company's done 50 million plus every year in education. And him and I were talking about, he's like, yeah, same thing. Like, I study all the people. He's like, I've been watching you for a while, and I can't figure out your angle on what you're doing. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, dude, like, your VSL doesn't follow anything that you would normally do in a VSL. Like, you just literally tell them straight to the point of, like, everything. And I was like, yeah. I was like, that's what I would want. He's like, if it works, it works. He's like, I've never seen it before.
Isn't that crazy?
It might be a new thing to try.
I did a 7-minute VSL that was awesome. Ty, if you remember this is here, me in my garage. Mm-hmm. So we funnel hack everyone. Ty sends you to a 90-minute VSL that you can't fast forward through. And when you get to the end, of course you're going to buy. It's only $67.
Yeah.
And you just spent 90 minutes listening to this guy talk.
Yeah.
So it is one of these things where it's like, do I get to the point because I respect the client's time and just get to the point? There's no reason to hide it. Or do I make him give me a pound of flesh by listening to 90 minutes, in which case now he's more invested?
Yeah.
And I think both strategies could work.
Well, I'll give you a funny story. So in 2018, when I went full-time into business after baseball, first thing I did was I went to the 10X conference here in Vegas. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I had never bought anything in the business space. And so I didn't even know who Tai Lopez or Russell Brunson or any of these guys were. I'm like, who the frick, like, who are these? They're not pro athletes. Like, they're nobodies. And everybody's like, Ty, Russell. And I'm like, what is going on here? Like, they treat these guys like they're freaking kings. They're just internet guys. Anyways, Russell, that was like his famous speech where he sold $3 million. I was one of the people. That was the first thing I ever bought. I was like, I don't even know what I'm buying, but that was like so good. I got to know how he convinced a skeptic like me to buy it. So I bought it. And then Ty was like next. And at that point, I was in buy-in mode, so I just bought Ty's. I don't even remember what I bought.
By the way, Ty buys everyone's course. If you guys don't know this, Ty has a person who buys. Ty's probably spent $150,000 a year on just different people's courses.
That's funny.
Yeah, he told me this the other day. I was like, yeah, I have a guy who just buys everyone's courses, and we just learn what they're doing.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So, I buy both of their things, and it was that. I was like, okay, I could get an education. So, fast forward 2018, I write my first book. And I just make a course. I don't know what the frick to do with it. Like, I didn't understand the marketing side. So I was like, I don't know. They told me that you could just like make a webinar and run ads and it'll just like print money. And so I gave a guy like the stuff and he spent like a couple $1,000 and I was like, this doesn't work. So I quit. I shelved it for years. And then 2020, I started making organic content and that leads to, all these sales and stuff. I'm like, all right, I should probably take this education thing a little more serious. And so we do that. And then it's funny because everybody's like, bro, you have to run ads. Like, what are you doing? I was like, I don't know, dude. Like, I'll just make organic content. And they're like, no, dude, at least retarget. Like, just retarget, please. Everybody was telling me. And I was like, fine. So, I hired these guys in, 2021. And they're supposed to, every agency will tell you they've worked with all the big guys, right?
Bro, it's crazy. By the way, Logan Forsythe. I just hired him.
Oh, nice.
Because he told me he knew you and Brandon Carter and
exactly
and Ty Lopez and Greg O'Gallagher. So I hit all those guys up and I'm like, what do you guys think about him? He's like, oh yeah, he's great.
Yeah. So everybody will tell you, whatever. They've worked with everyone. And so, I tried these guys and after like 3 months, we're like, this is stupid. Dude, we're done running ads. Like it doesn't work. Whatever, right? So in 2022, we finally we didn't even crack the code, but we finally were like, wow, we're actually like getting a return on ads. This is crazy. And then, now, we'll do 6 figures a month on ads.
Yeah. We figured, there was a hypothesis I had turned out to be correct. We show in my ads, I say very little and show a ton because I have so much, because I teach a networking course. So it's me with people and it's me with really beautiful women at these events.
Okay.
And the women, we're never touching each other. There's nothing lascivious. They're not like, it's not like bikini shots or anything like that. But it was like, we would just show the thing I said and in every single thing that we did and then made very few promises. And that seemed to work fantastically for us. And I think part of the reason why is, and I'm sure you've seen this before, is the over-promising by certain people in their ads. Like you can't sell a crypto course, I think, on Facebook anymore. In fact, I don't think you can actually even say a dating course. I don't even think you're allowed to do that on Facebook anymore because there's so much over-promising in those fields. So what we did was we say in my podcast is like more evidence, fewer words. So we showed as much as we could and then said very little, and that worked fantastically for us. That's what we did. And we A/B tested that, and that worked because I had so much footage of me hosting these events.
Yeah.
So it worked out really well. But like going back to what you said before, we didn't want to run ads either. We were like, look, we're just going to build this whole thing over organic content. And I was like, man, and I told my sales team, I was like, guys, this isn't going to work. Or not my sales team, my 2 partners. I was like, this isn't going to work. We're going to get to a point where like, if this whole business is built off Michael Sartain's Instagram, this is not a business. At some point, we're going to have to, expand. And you do get to this point where like, if you can figure ads out, is that Hormozy, he goes through the whole thing in his book, and I just finished his most recent book. He goes through the organic, right? And then he goes to paid. And when he goes to paid, he was like, this is the hardest thing to figure out. But if you figure it out, holy crap, man, you can make so much money. And then the last thing he goes through is affiliate. Yeah. He goes through the people who get people to buy your product. He goes like, this is how you expand exponentially. This is how you get to $100 million. And so like, you just learn so much from watching these people. And like, let me say this again. These books and the stuff you talk about and the stuff Cody Sanchez talks about, and especially the stuff Ty Lopez talks about, it's not groundbreaking, but he puts it all in one place and he makes it simple for you if you're a starter and makes you feel comfortable. And you watch him for a while, you watch you for a while, and then I trust you, right? I want your autograph. Oh, take a picture with me. Like when you see you in public. And then at that point, you're just more likely to buy from this person. Then you buy. This is another thing I also figured out. This took a while for me to figure out. if I have a high ticket offer and I sell it, you know what? I'm not competing with other people. Most people who buy a high ticket offer, you know what else they do? They buy other high ticket offers. Most people who buy coaching buy other coaching. And a lot of the successful people I know buy coaching or they buy some kind of education. So I didn't feel like I was competing with these other people. Like the number of people that I know that buy like either Wes Watson's course or Sean Whalen's course or whatever, and then do my course also is crazy high. And so that was another thing I kind of came to the realization is like, I need to collab with these people because there's a group of people that are only interested in investing in themselves, and that's where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right? And they'll buy courses on stuff they don't even, what's his name? Adam Lyons bought a course on real estate, didn't even know it was a real estate course. Goes through the entire course and ends up like building a dating coaching course. And then in his course, he uses his company to now buy real estate because of the course he accidentally bought.
That's funny.
Yeah,
dude,
that kind of
funny.
stuff.
Yeah, I think it's a crazy world, man. The digital marketing world's crazy. I'm just like watching it as an observer and knowing all these guys, and I'm just trying to project where I think the ball is moving because I don't know if I got lucky or I was just really good at that in 2020. I was like, I got to go all in on TikTok and YouTube. The time is now. And like, I just hit it hard and it paid off. And now I'm just kind of looking at the landscape and I'm like, where is, I guess, the blue ocean?
Yeah.
And to me anyways, for us, I think the blue ocean is in events.
Really? That's interesting. Yeah, we do 6 a year.
Yeah, I'm trying to do over 30 next year.
There, yeah, and I know Dan does a ton. I go to a lot of Dan Fleischman's events, and so yeah, that's a big deal. Yeah, for us, the blue ocean was that no one in dating was teaching networking and leadership, and no one in leadership was teaching dating. So we just made a course that was just like, don't pretend to be a man other people want to hang out with, actually become that man. So that's where we found our blue ocean. One of the things I always want to ask you about, especially because I talk to Brad Lee and Adam Sosnick and Wes pretty frequently. You have no profanity in the stuff that you're doing, which probably doesn't seem like a big deal to you, but to the rest of us, that's a decision you make. And when you watch like Mr. Beast or like other people who go incredibly viral, they either bleep out their profanity or they just don't have any at all. Was this ever a decision for you, or was this just how you were all the time?
Yeah, no, I mean, as a Christian, I just don't cuss.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with content.
Yeah.
So, look, I mean, with content too, you're going to attract your tribe. And so, at the end of the day, there's going to be guys who resonate with you who don't resonate with me and vice versa. And like, that's all good. Like the worst thing you can do is try and be something you're not.
Yes.
And it's so funny because whenever I get these guys who speak under our events, like a Brad, they know I don't cuss, but I don't tell them. I'm like, bro, do whatever you want. Like, I'm not like putting the child protection on you. Like, just do what you do. And a lot of times they'll like catch themselves cussing and then they'll apologize. And it's so funny to me because I'm like, dude, I didn't tell you couldn't cuss. Like, just do what you want. Like, do you feel guilty that like I'm watching you? Like, am I the judge?
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
The other idea was, let's go back to this. I have a friend of mine. He paid $150,000 to PBD, Patrick Bet-David, just to like coach him through a couple of stuff and turn his business around.
Yep.
I know another friend of mine who paid a bunch of money to Tony Robbins. I will tell you, before I got in this space, I was super skeptical. Now, when you buy someone's course and you get a really positive ROI and you skip these early steps, especially when you compare it to the price of actual traditional education, man, like the idea of like buying an Amazon FBA course or buying a course on like Closer Academy or RCA from Cole Gordon or something like that, how much the ROI on that compared to getting a degree in philosophy and how much money you have to spend.
Yeah.
Can you talk about this is for you? Have you gotten to the point where you like buying courses, and how do you judge which courses that you buy for your own education?
For me at this point, we still buy courses and all that stuff. I would say like my own personal development, I spend a lot of time, money, and resources on just networking and relationships, right? So it's like, all the people you've been mentioning, I've been fortunate enough to be able to have them speak at my events, and I haven't had to pay them anything, and like we get all these people on the podcast, and, I just try to create like something of value that people would want to freely come to. So it's like, hey, I know if I speak at Ryan's event, it's going to be worthwhile for me, right? And so they come. If I come on Ryan's podcast, I'll come to Vegas and I'll do it because it's worthwhile for me. So if I can create things of value, I'm just going to attract those people anyway, right? And then at that point, once I bring the right people in and I build a relationship, I go direct to them. Like, I'm not watching their course, you know? So it's like, it's really interesting because that's bailed me out so many times. You know, being able to just text Dan Martell or Neil directly. I mean, this was, I'll just show you right now. So like today, who was I texting? I was texting Neil earlier today at 12 about something. Then I was texting Hormozy about something. Yeah. And then I was texting Cole. He's right there. And then I was texting Jared from Cardone's. So like, that's what my day is like.
Yes.
Like, I go through problems in business and I'm like, dude, how did you do this?
Yeah.
And then like, that's it. That's how I learned.
I literally texted Cole Gordon yesterday about how do we set up compensation packages for additional coaches, like yesterday. It's really interesting. So Cole and, like, I'll stay at Cole's house. Cole and I have a relationship, and then my sales team has a relationship with his instructors, and those are two different relationships. Yeah. Like I mentioned before, Bilzerian might be doing a course in the future. Me and Dan have a relationship, and then Dan's team and my team have a relationship. So it's like what you said before, right? And I do think that is important, that I can just call some of these guys up. A lot of times, like, whenever there's a controversial thing and I don't know how to answer, like, what I'm going to say, I'll listen to Patrick Bet-David. I'll be like, before he goes on, like, what is PBD? Because PBD is like, he's not alt-right. He's like politically conservative. He's not far out there. And I find myself agreeing with a lot of stuff he's saying. So I'm like, okay, what would PBD say in this situation? And so that's another thing that's like actually been really helpful. Exactly what you're saying. It's like being able to network with those people. Very controversial individual in Romania that I was going to go fly out there and interview. And the first thing I did was ask Dan Fleischman. I was like, dude, can I do this? Because you and I know some people who are very politically progressive. And if I go out there, they're going to be pissed at me. And he's like, you have to do it. Like, you have to do this. And I was like, and that kind of changed my opinion on a lot of stuff. So you're right.
So you ended up going out to Romania and you filmed with him?
No, he got arrested and went to jail for several months. But I still do text him every once in a while.
Got it.
Yeah. Maybe at some point in the future.
Yeah. I'll say, like, even for, PBD and all these guys, I mean, like, they're at such a different level. I was with Ed Milet a couple of weeks ago at his house filming. And just I didn't have a relationship with him before. Yeah. And now we do. And it's like, now we've been talking about just different things and opportunities. But like, the one thing that I think for me, I guess, that offers a lot of these guys value. So actually, let me take a step back. So one thing like Fresh and Fit and those guys talk about that I think is really interesting is like, hey, being a man of value. Like, how do you offer value for them, the context of women, right? You know, you can be good looking, you can be fit, you can have a good career and whatever else, right? I think about that as like me as an entrepreneur to these guys. What would make them want to have a relationship with me? You know? And so I've thought about it a lot, and I'm like, how do you become a great connector? And it's like, okay, well, what are the different ways you can provide value to people? And it's like, okay, one is attention. And so, okay, the podcast, the events, I can offer attention. That's a big one. Another one is skill. I can offer them skill and knowledge and maybe something they don't have skill and knowledge on. Luckily for me, most of these guys don't know anything about real estate, but they want to learn. And so what happens is Neil calls me up. He sells a $20 million home. He's like, hey, what do I do in this situation? That literally happened. Cole Gordon has invested in my fund. You know, like, these guys ask me about that. So I'm like, okay, what kind of skill can I offer them in value? The third thing is just simply being a good connector overall. So it's like, hey, you want to meet this person? Let me connect you with them and, just be of value. And so that's kind of like where I'm at today is, how do I just make myself so valuable that, like, everyone wants to be my friend? Yes. Right?
I love that you said that. I literally posted 9 a.m. this morning. My team posted one, and I was like, it was a clip. And it basically was saying, especially as a man, you're not a special snowflake. Like, I had Justin Waller come on here, and he goes, I don't really want to be friends with people I can't make money with. And he wasn't trying to say that to be shallow, but he was saying that, like, I only have so much time in my day to be friends with people, and like, these people who are the ones that I have the most in common with. Now, I'm not to that level. I have tons of friends I don't make money with. Yeah. But the idea that, like, we have these people in our lives that, like, you can becoming valuable to other people is like the best way of networking. Because one of the other things is like you believe, oh, I'm a special snowflake and all these people are going to like me just because of my internal energy or my chakra or, whatever the new thing is. And my whole thing is I don't want people to like me for that. I want people to understand that I can be valuable to them. And then the other thing I learned was from Fleischman is I do as much as I can for other people and ask for nothing in return.
Right.
That's another thing. I try to create so much goodwill with as many people as possible. And the doors that have opened for me have been exponential just from that one concept. It's very hard. And this is another idea. And I don't know if you've ever thought about this, but I feel like that mentality weeds out cluster B personality disorders.
What is a cluster B personality?
Sociopath, so antisocial personality disorder, histrionic, narcissistic, and borderline.
Got it.
I think the idea of me doing things for other people and asking for nothing in return weeds out cluster B personality disorders. Specifically the sociopath types. So like I think those type of individuals eventually get to a point where they're like, I'm not getting anything out of this from this relationship, so I don't want to do this anymore. So that's why I like it, especially the philanthropic stuff that we do. So I love Cole Hatter. I met Cole Hatter in 2 seconds. You're like, this is a great dude.
Yeah.
You know immediately when you talk to this guy's great. You meet Cole Gordon, you meet like immediately this guy's a great dude.
Yeah.
When you listen to Wes Watson, you're like, this guy loves his client. He loves them.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the issues why I really like this lifestyle.
Yeah.
Is because I'm dealing with people who the meritocracy or the free market has rewarded them with success and monetary gains. And in addition, they do same things where they have to literally care or else the market is going to weed them out. Because there's too many people offering value for you to be the one who isn't.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, the bar keeps getting raised. And that's what I was saying with YouTube and everything else. It's like, before you had all these guys who weren't doing business as the guys on YouTube, and now they're getting kind of shadowed by both business and YouTubers and good content and good edits, and like these guys are storytellers, and the bar just keeps getting raised. Mr. Beast keeps raising the bar on his own self, every video. And so when the bar is constantly being raised, the cream's going to rise to the top. And, it just becomes that thing where, man, like for you to compete at anything, just take baseball, for example. I remember 15 years ago when I was coming up, 15 years ago, I would have been a freshman in college, right? Yeah. It was like, dude, if somebody's throwing mid-90s, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
This dude's throwing gas. The amount of guys that throw 100+ in the game today is unreal.
Yeah.
I'm just like, holy crap, dude. Like, you got this guy, Shohei Ohtani, who's freaking leading the league in homers, striking everybody. This is nuts.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the talent level is just going to keep increasing.
Yeah, it is. It is really interesting when you see that. There's a couple things I want to ask you about. You mentioned something with Fresh and Fit that I thought was really interesting, and that was the idea of the 10-year time horizon for buying properties. This is something I'm going to get into. My company, we're probably going to start buying properties, and then myself personally. And one of the things that you were talking about was the idea. So I come from the finance space. I used to work for I still do work for one fund, but I was an option seller. That's what I mainly did. I was a quantitative analyst for a fund. And so I would deal with a lot of market makers. So BlackRock is a market maker. They'll take the both sides of every deal to the point where they make money on the bid-ask spread. But they also buy single-family homes, which I wasn't aware of until I listened to you discuss this idea. And the idea was like basically they were buying this almost like an arbitrage opportunity if they bought enough single-family homes. And you said that they weren't doing any negotiation. They were buying at 100% value. They were just buying as many as they could, and they would hold on to them, and then they would get a return in the future. Can you go into that whole? First off, the idea that hedge funds are buying these single family homes.
Yep.
And number two, the idea of like not trying to flip, but holding things for a 10-year time horizon.
Yeah. So I got in the game in 2010 when I was a realtor. I was 21 years old. And I remember at that time, people would talk about the auctions. Like, the auctions are great deals. These flippers were buying these houses literally in Vegas for 20 grand, right? These guys are buying houses for 20 grand, either holding them or flipping them for 100. Like, so they were killing it. Then all of a sudden around 2011 or so, hedge funds start coming into town. Yeah. And, Blackstone was the big one. And all of a sudden they're bidding up all these properties to market value, just wiping out all the flippers who, were making all this money during that time. And people were like, dude, these guys are crazy. They're overpaying. They'll never make money on this. And it was true. If you were only looking at it from a flip perspective, they were never going to make money. They were going to lose money if they wanted to flip it, right? Well, they had a different time horizon. They're like, we know 10 years from now, even 5 years from now, these are so undervalued, it does not matter what we pay for them.
Yeah.
They're worth 100, we'll pay 120. It does not matter because these are so undervalued.
Yeah, and when you're dealing with something like BlackRock, we're dealing like almost $1 trillion valuation, like AUM, and you have to put that money to work somewhere.
Yeah.
It becomes hard. Like for instance, if there's a point at which you can no longer buy stock in a certain mid-cap company anymore and get any ROI because you're raising the price of it so much. Like, not for you and me, but like you and I, or all the people we know, are not going to change the price of Microsoft.
No.
But there's a point at which when you're dealing with almost $1 trillion, you cannot get liquidity or a good deal. This is something I deal with. Tom Sosnoff, who sold several brokerages, he's a billionaire, he's a friend of mine. And he would talk about this. Is like, there's a point at which the vehicle that you're trying to invest in cannot handle the level of money you're trying to put into it. And so when you deal with this situation, when you talk about Sequoia, BlackRock, or any of these other hedge funds, when they get into it, the real estate market is so massive, right? It's up there with like fixed equities, fixed income, which is the bond market is the biggest. I don't know if people know this. Bond market is like 4 times the size of the stock market. And when you get to that point, this is something where I can put a ton of money in there. Now it may increase the price of homes in a certain area, but it's a place where I can send a ton of liquidity to.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and it was a place that was a blue ocean.
Yeah.
Like single family homes were not an asset class. They were for mom and pops and just primary residences. And so, the housing shortage we have today, even with high interest rates, are really due to investors and funds and everyone noticing that like this is a great asset class on its own. And unfortunately for, people trying to buy a house, we just haven't developed the technology to build houses fast enough or cheap enough. And so
3D printing, it's coming.
I believe you.
Yeah.
And I've seen it and I've looked into it. And it's like, until that becomes a thing, there's always going to be a shortage. And so for all these people thinking like, oh, market's going to crash and this and that, I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, it's funny because I interviewed Patrick Bet-David a year ago, I think in June of 22 or July, right around there, right? And Pat's like, dude, everything's like, it's going to drop 50%.
Yeah.
And I was like, Pat, it's not. And he's like, it is.
There's not enough supply.
I go, Pat, you don't get it. Like, you're a beast of an insurance guy, but you're wrong. And I was like, there's not enough supply. And guess what? When they raise rates, these people are going to hold on to their homes. There's no way they sell, because why would you sell? You have a 3% rate. You're not going to sell that. And sure enough, it's exactly what. Yeah, we went through like a little mini dip.
Yeah.
And then this year's, positive growth year over year. And there's still no supply. Prices are still high. Rates are still high. And it's showing no signs of slowing down. And so it's like, these funds and everyone know that, because it's like, well, what else are you going to buy? You got money to deploy. It may not be the greatest investment ever, but what are your alternatives?
Yeah. The other thing is, we talk about, I had a discussion with people about a manufacturing economy and how a lot of the smaller little widgets that were produced in this country before, now they've moved over to China, electronic components and stuff like that. But when you build a house, we can't outsource this to India. The homes must be built by people who live in the United States for the most part, and have the highest standard of living of almost any industrialized country in the world. And so that's going to get harder and harder as you have to pay a union electrician or a union carpenter to do these jobs. And there's only so many of them. And so that, like you said before, it's going to limit the amount of supply.
Yeah, and I've read a lot about deflation and, Bitcoin and all these things, and technology being a deflationary thing. And I believe it. It's like, man, ChatGPT and these AI tools are not going to like make things more expensive. They're actually going to make it cheaper.
Yeah.
It's like,
agreed.
If I needed a copywriter to go do all these things, now all of a sudden that one copywriter can produce 10 times the amount of copy that they could have before. It's like, yeah, they might get a small bump in pay, but the output is going to be significantly different.
Can you talk about it's funny, a couple things here, the real simple, quick and dirty on this idea of wholesaling, because I think a lot of people like this idea, because you said you watched TV ads where people were like, flip these houses with no money, right? How does that work? Because it seems like an arbitrage opportunity that you already set up previously. Is that pretty much what we're talking about here?
Yes. I mean, wholesaling, the gist of it is, well, we'll just use the 3 people in this room. So you got a house, you come to me and you're like, Ryan, I want to sell it to you. I know it's worth 400, but I'll give it to you for 320, right? Because I need to sell it like yesterday. So I put it under contract with you for 320. Then I know my guy back here, he's a house flipper, and he's willing to pay me 340 for it, right? And so what happens is I'm going to assign my rights to the contract to him for the difference between what I have it under contract for and what he's willing to pay. So in this case, 20 grand.
Yeah.
So now what happens is he goes and funds the entire deal for 340. You get your 320. I get my 20 grand. He gets the house. He then takes it, goes and flips it or keeps it or whatever he wants to do. And you don't have to fix it up. You don't have to fund it. You don't have to do any of that stuff. You just got to push paper.
Okay, so now the arbitrage part of it, I understand. The part I don't understand is how does the retail customer or the retail client, how is he able to find these opportunities on a regular basis? Because I mean, everyone, I would love to find arbitrage opportunities to flip anything, but how does he do that?
So when you say so in our world, when we think about the retail buyer, we're thinking about the end buyer for the property.
What I mean, when I say retail, I'm thinking about it
the normal guy.
From the hedge fund, from the finance standpoint, there is the institutional investor and then there's the retail investor. So what I'm saying is from the normal guy who's like going through Craigslist ads or whatever, how does he able to find these arbitrage opportunities?
Yeah, so how does somebody become a wholesaler?
Yeah.
I mean, dude, there's lots of ways, right? I mean, the three main ways are MLS, which is what's already on the market.
Okay.
Referrals. This would be realtors or buying from other wholesalers, or direct to seller marketing, right? And so at my company, we do all three. I got my start just strictly not spending any money on marketing. I would just network, going back to networking. Yeah. I would network, meet other wholesalers, buy deals, meet realtors, all that stuff. And then the MLS, all those properties are on there. So it's just a volume game of how many offers can you make, right? So I probably bought my first 70 homes with those two. Didn't spend $1 on marketing. But I knew in order to do 100 plus a year, I needed to start marketing. And so we started going direct to seller marketing, doing cold calls and text and direct mail and PPC. Now we have TV commercials. And so, we got heavy into that side. And so there's lots of ways to find deals. I mean, there's way more in depth I could go into about targeting people and negotiating and all that stuff.
So you would actually have a team, like say setters, whatever, that are doing outbound to try to find, and then you're running TV ads.
Yeah.
What is I'm saying maybe a YouTube ad. What is it? What are you saying in the YouTube ad? Are you looking to?
I'll give you a funny story. Yeah. So I've literally spent over $1 million on our TV commercial over the years, and I mean it's produced millions, but it's literally the same commercial I've had since 2020. It's never been updated, and we run it on freaking Jerry Springer and whatever, dude. So
are you in it?
Yeah.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, dude. So it's a 30-second ad, and it literally is it starts off with a good hook, and I'm like, I'm Ryan Pineda, and I want to buy your house. Yeah. That's the hook, right? And then I'm like, we'll give you a cash offer, no fees, all this stuff, right? And it's just like, call the number, go to homerunoffer.com, and like literally it's been playing for 4 years straight. I've never changed it because the KPIs say it still works.
Yeah, that's exactly until it breaks.
Yeah, it has not broke, but it has broke in that every time we've tried to scale it to a certain number, it breaks.
Okay.
So like the ad itself is fine. It's just the problem that came with scale each time was either that channel could no longer produce that ROI because it was just hitting the same people, and so the cost per lead would go up. Or our sales team just wasn't big enough. They're just getting too, they're only going after the low-hanging fruit because there's so many leads coming in.
Darn sales team, bro. It's rough, man. It's hard. Like one of the issues that we're going to be coming up on in the future is that I have a low-ticket offer coming out. So now, does my setter push does he push the lead to the closer?
How much is it?
The low ticket, we haven't fixed it. Okay. It's not going to be more than $200, maybe 50, maybe $50. Low ticket offer.
Well, that should never be a salesperson.
No, a setter. No. What I mean by it shouldn't get to the There's what should happen is if the guy goes through the affiliate or if the guy finds out about the low ticket offer, they just go to the low ticket offer. They never talk to a human.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Very much with what's it called? The Hustle University that Andrew Tate did. Same type of idea. If they do get on the call with a setter, the setter now has a choice. Do I send this guy to a closer because he's financially qualified? Or if he isn't, do I now push him to low ticket? And my problem, the only issue is like, if he gets a commission from the low ticket, is he just going to take the easy way out? You see what I'm saying? And there's like this balance. Again, we haven't even gotten to this point yet, but it's something that I'm already thinking about.
Do your setters not get paid for a high ticket close?
They do. Yeah, they do get paid for high ticket close. My point is the high ticket close is so much more expensive than the low ticket.
Yeah.
Then their likelihood of getting paid. Whereas like I'm thinking when we do low ticket offer, we give 100% commissions. Again, I'm just spitballing this. I have to still go. We have to discuss.
Still seems like great. We're in.
Yeah. Right.
Well, you're saying it's $200, right? Or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
Under 500. I mean, yeah, a closer shouldn't really.
No. So the way.
But I'm saying a setter shouldn't even talk to him.
They shouldn't talk to him. The setter is talking to a person who's set up with a setter. The setter is somebody who went through the funnel and they clicked to set up a demo and they talked to the setter.
Yeah.
My point is now the setter goes through it and it's a guy who just happens to live in Paraguay and has no possible way, who's like a fan of my content and like wants somebody to talk to. This happens all the time where my setters just have their time wasted by guys who are not financially qualified. And then he's got this issue is like, do I just send this guy to the low ticket or do I, what do I do here? My point is, at what point do we get to there's a place where I listen to myself. I don't know if you've ever done this because I've never worked in sales before, but I've had my sales guys come live with me before and do sales calls in my house. Okay. Because I want to know. And often I'll jump on the call to get the close. And I listen to them, and there's a point at the calls where I absolutely would have given up, Ryan. I would have I was like, bro, you sounds hopeless. I can't help you. Sorry. And my guys push and they win so often. And these become some of my best clients. And I'm like, man, if my sales guy had not pushed right here, you wouldn't be in this program, changing your life, changing your business, and finding the woman of your dreams. That wouldn't have happened. Yeah. But I'm not good at that, right? And so I'll listen to him, and so there's places where I would have quit. And if I was a setter, I'd be like, oh, I'm gonna send this guy a low ticket offer. He's not gonna, he can't afford it. And I just want to make sure I don't put my guys in a conundrum. Does that make sense?
Yeah. What I would suggest is kind of like what we're about to roll out. So to this point, our cheapest coaching program has been $10K.
Okay.
And so we're about to roll out a $3K. And, it's going to actually do something I want it to do, which is the opposite of what you just said, where there's a lot of people who can't afford $10K, obviously, right? And so they go on payment plans and all these different things.
Yeah.
It would be better for both of us that they end up just buying the $3K.
Okay.
I would rather them do that than get on a payment plan.
Yes, I feel the same way. There's so many guys that I'll listen to their stories and I'm like, man, I want to help this guy so bad. Yeah. And then they're just like floating in the wind and I have nothing to give them. So I put them in. It's like, watch the podcast. Here's my free call. Like as soon as I get out of here at 4:00, I'm doing a free call with like several hundred guys. Go live on YouTube.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something. There's some lunatics that will try to jump on your call if you ever do that. And I'm so excited to do this because I want to do this for the guys who kind of like they live in Mumbai, they live in Managua, right. And they love the content and they deserve to get help too. And it's not their fault; they were born in a third world country. Yeah. And I want to help these guys so badly, but I can't. There's no way they can afford my course. And so these leads just float out there forever. And I'm just like, I listen to the sales calls, and when the guy doesn't buy it, I'm like, man, I want to help this guy. Yeah. And I just think like, is there a vehicle to do it? And like you said, you have a 3K course, and that might be the way to do it.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously for those guys, that's still way too high. Yeah. But for us, it's going to solve a lot of our problems because to your point, when we have that offer, we don't need a closer to close it. So a setter would be able to.
So 3K, really?
Yeah.
So Wes, I think his is 1,300 with no closer. So we thought the number was right around there because I just had this discussion. Yeah. At what point do you not need a closer? And you think it's 3K?
The stats say it's 3K.
Wow. Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah. Grant, Miguel, we're going to have a discussion about this.
Yeah. And the stats say 3K from everyone who's done it way longer than me.
Okay.
That's the point of which people need to talk to somebody but our vision is, I mean, I'll tell you, like, we're going to launch this in 2 weeks. I don't know when it's going to air, but we're going to launch this in 2 weeks. It's going to be 3K. You can do a 2Pay for a little bit more. And our expectation is people will buy right then and there on their own, during this challenge that we end up doing to promote it. From there, what I anticipate happening is running an evergreen webinar.
Yeah.
And we expect that it should still convert even at a 3K, because we'll still have the 2Pay option, right? Hasn't been done, but based on other people still doing it in the space, it works. From there, normal leads that come in, I mean, they're going to be with a setter regardless, right? So people are going to come in and the setter is going to qualify, hey, does this person qualify, whatever, right? If they don't qualify for 10K or above, they're going to have the option to close them on the 3K.
Do you have, for your closers, do you give a higher commission for paid in full?
Yes.
Do you, for your setters, I forgot what I was going to ask. Do you overtly financially qualify them?
Yeah.
You do?
Yeah.
Okay. So we've experimented with both. And we found that things go there's this thing, especially in where I come from, because a lot of my clients come from like failed dating courses. I have a huge component. And so there's a little bit of skepticism. So when I overtly financially qualify, they're like, what the fuck is this guy doing? Sorry. I know, I apologize again.
Everyone apologizes to me for no reason.
So that's the issue. So we've changed that up a little bit.
Well, let me add to some context, right? Because for our stuff with real estate, it's assumed you need money, right? Like everyone knows real estate costs money.
Yeah.
And so like one of our qualifying questions is, how much do you have to invest? We straight up ask you. And that's a qualifying question for a number of reasons.
But I think it makes more sense. It totally makes sense in your industry.
And that's why I'm saying, like, for our industry, it's assumed.
Yeah.
Dude, bro, I mean, yeah, we can wholesale and do stuff, but real estate's a costly industry.
Yeah.
This isn't dating, you know?
Yeah.
So it's very different.
Yeah. And I actually specifically talk about in my course to do it with no money. Like, not the course costs money, but like I teach you how to do everything I do without spending money.
Well, I'll tell you a story too, just speaking about content and niches. So my audience, I mean, they've spent a lot of money with me over the years, tens of millions. They've invested tens of millions. Like, it's been a lot of money in just a short amount of time. And the type of content I put out is very, I don't want to say it's high level, but it's just very, it doesn't attract cheap people.
I'll tell you what it is. It's not lowbrow. It's not the clickbaity type of content that is super lascivious, or like one of the problems in my industry is there's too many people in my industry who want to see women get shamed. And I'm so totally against that, but that goes viral. So you're pulled into that direction, and you don't have that issue because you're helping people build value and make money.
Yeah. So let's just say it attracts higher quality people, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, that just is the audience we attract. Tormosi's the same way, right? We did this with Graham. Was it last year? Yeah, last year. We started a fund with Graham because I'm like, dude, I mean, you got so many subscribers, and like, let's see how it goes. You know, the problem is he attracts cheap people, right? Because everything is about saving, everything's about the news.
Oh, got it. Yeah.
And everything's about the market's crashing. And so everybody's very scared and fearful in his audience. And so what we found was, as we tried to raise for this deal, he actually could not raise as much as me, even though he has, let's say, 10 times the subscribers, right? And it was just this interesting thing that we realized where, man, the type of people you attract really matters in what you sell. And so like we have an agency now, and the first thing we teach our clients is like, look guys, first off, what's your business? Okay. Because this is going to dictate what kind of content you put out and who you're trying to attract. Is the goal to get the most views and followers, or is the goal to get the right people who are going to spend money with you? Like what's your overall goal for this? And so for me, you'll never see me talk about the news. You'll never see me talk about, for one, I just don't want to. I don't even know what's going on. I couldn't even tell you. And two, it's like, yeah, it would be nice to have more followers. And there's ways I could do it by just being more broad and like attracting those people, but I don't want them.
Yeah.
And I don't want to make the content.
Yeah. And you can, it's crazy when you see how much money some people make with much smaller followings because it's very niche and they're only going out. It's like the Golf Channel, right? The Golf Channel doesn't do as much as NFL Network, but I promise you, the people who watch the golf, if I'm an advertiser, I'm going right for the Golf Channel. Like
look at how much they pay the golf or PGA for sponsorships.
Yeah.
I mean, it's because they know that audience is extremely valuable. And it's funny, we've never really tried to get sponsors for Wealthcon. So we run Wealthcon every quarter. And I've never focused on sponsors because I am my own sponsor. My booths of all my companies are everywhere, right? So it's fine. But I was actually talking to Fleischman about this, and I was like, man, you know what, though? It is a missed opportunity because there's things I don't offer that people attending really need. And like, if businesses could understand the value of that room, they would realize how good of a deal it is to be a sponsor. And so I just started to reverse engineer it. And I was like, all right, let me do a webinar explaining to businesses what they're missing out on by not being at this event as a sponsor. And let me get some feedback on what they've been paying at other events, right? So, you know, I've spoken at a lot of events. I've been to a lot of events. I go, guys, okay, tell me about, you know, the events that you've sponsored. How much did you pay? How many attendees? All that stuff, right? A typical booth sponsor might be $5 to $10 grand at like an event, right? Just for like the bare minimum.
Yeah.
And I go, okay, so how many people were at the event? Well, a typical event might be 300. It's 300 to 500 if it's good, right? And most events at that level are charging 100 to 500 a ticket, right? And I've even talked to Dan about this because, you know, his new events company, that's their model. It's all very low. Like their average ticket price is about $200. Now, they're going to go crazy and get 2,000 to 3,000 people at the event.
Yeah.
But still, when you like, if you're going to really understand what the total value of the audience is, you can actually reverse engineer and you're like, okay, what's the value of the room? Well, if there's 500 people in there and they paid $200 a ticket, the value of that room is $100 grand, right? So, okay, that's $100 grand room. Wealthcon, we have 1,000 people and our average ticket is $1,000. So do the math. I mean, I think it's, what is that? That's $1 million? 1,000 times 1,000
is $1 million. Yeah, 1,000 is $1 million.
So right there, the room is 10 times as valuable just based on ticket price and audience, you know, attendance, right? So you're like, well, theoretically, you should pay 10 times the booth sponsor. Like this is how advertisers advertise on YouTube. That's why CPM exists, because my CPM is $50. Other CPMs are 10. Why is that? Because the quality of the audience is so much higher.
Yeah.
Now I don't get as many views as some guys, but I'll still make more on a video because of CPM, right? So long story short, I'm like, guys, okay, number one, just based on ticket value, the room is 10 times more valuable. Would you agree, right? Number two, that's not even counting how much these people have bought from me. These people have spent tens of millions of dollars already with me. Like I know they will spend because I've been the recipient and we have receipts.
Yeah.
So this is an audience ready to buy if you have the right product. And I'm telling you, you have a product that they'd be interested in. And so I'm like, okay, so think about this. You're used to paying 10 grand to some scrub event with low ticket, low quality people, right? If I go and give you a booth for 15 grand, you're stealing it. And so, you know, it's just helping people understand the quality of the audience.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, I was thinking about, I do these videos. Let's go, you know, the whole thing Hormozy wears to open up his nose, better sleep. Some people wear that mouth tape to keep from sleep apnea. That is a boring topic that could absolutely change someone's life.
Oh, for sure.
Sleep apnea, you get 50% disability in the U.S. military if you have sleep apnea because it kills people. Boring. If I have a guy come on my podcast and argue that the earth is flat, just blows up, super viral. But the problem is this, why would advertisers, like you talking about real estate, if I'm an advertiser, even if you have 1/10 as many views, I know your audience is more valuable than the guy who's talking about ancient aliens that live under Antarctica.
1,000%.
And so that, I think, is where the difference is as far as the AdSense. Because I look at my view count and my AdSense compared to some of my friends who get way more followers, and I'm like, how do I get more views? And I think it's because I talk about evolutionary psychology. I think that's part of the reason why. So yeah, I definitely agree with you as far as that's concerned. The quality of the audience.
The quality matters a lot. And so for anybody thinking about content and everything else, you got to keep that in mind for who you're really trying to. Now, look, if you're Mr. Beast, right, and he's going after everyone, and let's just assume, I mean, the more people you get, the lower quality it is. There's only so many high quality people in the world, right? Well, then you just have to create a low quality product.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like Mr. Beast created candy bars. Perfect thing for these guys.
He has a disproportionately high number of his audience under the age of 18. So yeah, he kind of has to he sells to that audience. Same thing with Logan Paul. He's got an energy drink. Like that's where he
perfect product for what he's built.
He's not doing a bond arbitrage product. You know what I'm saying?
No.
That's not where for the dab crowd. Yeah, exactly. Can we go over this idea? This is something I think that kind of gets lost in the sauce when you have people who want to get into entrepreneurship, but they don't know how to humble themselves. And that is the idea of finding mentors that'll help you in different ways. So if I was going to get into real estate, you mentioned before about finding a mentor in real estate, right? Finding a mentor. You said you bought Graham Stephan's course. By the way, have you ever done a Taco Tuesday with Graham?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I do that with Spencer Cornelia is one of my good friends. And so we do that every week. I think it's one of the greatest things about the city is that all the YouTube content creators, we all come together and have dinner on Tuesdays.
I feel bad because Lucky invites me every Tuesday, and I haven't been there in years.
Dude, I knew Lucky when Lucky Lopez, when he was just flipping cars, didn't have a YouTube channel. I think I bought a car from him at one point. Yeah, Lucky. That's crazy to see how Lucky's just totally blown up in this car. It's another great space to be in, right? But finding mentors in these different areas. Can you talk about that and maybe the struggle that some people have where they try to do like what you said before about, you said you were trying to do ads and you hired someone. We were hard-headed about that. We wanted to do everything ourselves. Can you talk about finding a mentor, hiring a mentor, and that kind of stuff?
For one, I don't try to do anything on my own anymore.
Yeah.
It's just dumb. Number one, like time is the only limited resource on the earth. Money's easy to come and get, right? So for me, it's like, I want to get on YouTube. I'll tell you, I actually tried to pay somebody a lot more money than the courses. The problem was I just could not find anybody that fit what I was looking for. So I was ready to shell out the money, but I got stuck with courses and I had to figure it out on my own. Two, as far as anything goes, at this point in my life, any skill I want to learn, I'm either going to hire somebody to teach us it or hire somebody to just do it for us, right? So, I mean, right now we have a new ads guy and he's absolutely crushing it. He'd been doing it for a while for other guys, but I'll tell you, it's not a cheap deal, right? Like, we're paying him a percentage of profit plus a fat retainer. We're paying him $20,000 a month as a retainer. And, it's like, man, dude, that's a lot of money. We built something to this point that is really good. But I know for us to get to the next level, we are going to have to get somebody even better and better. And, I'm super hopeful for that. It just crushes and we all make a lot of money together. But, the whole point is, in order to get to the next level, like, you need to get somebody who's actually going to do it with you. And, whether they do it for you in this case, like, and then eventually maybe hands it off to my team so that we can do it and we go crush it for however long that is. Cool. But, that's one example. Sales team, Cole and I met because we hired him. Like, dude, our sales team's not good enough. How do we get this guy, right? Get Cole, and, he does this thing and teaches us a ton of stuff. And the same is true with my business coach and, all my real estate mentors.
I had them all on my podcast and then hired them. That's how it worked.
Yeah.
Half of my team now, we had them on. Char Modell, who does my social media stuff, she was sitting right there and did a podcast with her. Graham was sitting right here. Nick Cosman helped us with the copyright. Like, all the stuff, we just had them on the podcast. When I went to the other execs and I was like, who do you guys love? And they would tell me and I would have them on the show. And then I would ask them all the questions that they wanted and then we'd hire them. That's generally how it would work.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we use the podcast as almost like a recruiting tool.
Oh, for 1,000%.
Yeah.
Dude, 1,000%. I mean, like, just the amount of people I've been able to pick their brains on the podcast and then develop a relationship and learn. And, even if it's not in a formal payment setting. Sure. It's been crazy.
And the other thing is it never ends. Like, there's no, you made this statement and I love this one. First off, I want to tell the story. Have you heard the Bradley Grant Cardone story? So Bradley had invested in one of Grant's upcoming ventures, whatever it was. He doesn't describe it. And he's on Facebook and he sees Grant Cardone every 5 seconds on his Facebook. And he calls Grant. He goes, "Bro, I'm gonna have to unfollow you. Like, this is crazy. Like, you're too available. I'm seeing your face too much, and I may have to unfollow you." And Grant said something. He uses a little profanity. He goes, "You don't even bother having one, motherfucker." He says that to him, and he just hangs the phone up on him. Yeah. And I was like, "That's it." And, like, no matter what you think of Grant, who is a controversial figure, Grant is in the billionaire club.
Yeah.
Because he was talking about things that were controversial and didn't. Cash is king. You remember the whole thing? Or like, cash is trash.
Yep.
He says cash is trash and the market falls. And it's like, how's the cash is trash looking for you now? Or no, the market goes up or something. I forgot what it was. But it's like, he could even be provably wrong and still make money.
Yeah.
Your statement was people who don't have content will never survive. Building a business is a must. Building a brand is a must. Mm-hmm. And so, whereas before building a brand wasn't that big of a deal, and then it became an optional deal, you think in the future it's not optional anymore.
No, you're going to have to make content for marketing, one way or the other. I mean, and it doesn't have to be you as a personal brand, but your business is going to have to make content. There's just no other way around it. It'd be like saying, "Oh, well, my business just doesn't need to, do cold calls or friggin' PPC. Like, it's just marketing. That's how we have to start thinking about brand and content. The only difference is a brand demands a premium on everything that you cannot explain. A brand can sell you air and you will buy it, right? And I was telling my team this the other day because it's just kind of funny, but it is what it is, right? You think about Tesla, they're a brand. They've sold tequila and random things, right?
Yes.
It's like people have been waiting on the Cybertruck for freaking however many years with all, like, that's a brand. You believe in whatever it is they're selling, right? Grant's the same way. He's built this 10X brand. You know what it's all about. He literally sells 10X GrowthCon without a date, a location, a speaker, or anything. He's like, it's going to come out, get your tickets, and you buy. And it's crazy, but that's the power of a brand. And we did it at our last event. I said, hey, guys, if you buy this thing, you're going to be eligible for our winter retreat. Yeah. There's no date, there's no location, and people buy it, right? That's because of the brand equity you've built up, that they're willing to buy it and, trust that it's going to happen, right? The other thing happens too is just like with your normal things, you can demand a premium on the price. You don't have to spend as much on ads because you have content. Just everything about it makes it better, and you get the right people into your communities, right? Because imagine if you were having a community where there was no like alignment or purpose, or just random people are coming in and out, and you're like, dang, why is this guy, they got like these kind of guys over here and these kind of, like, everybody is very similar, and it's only because of brand.
Yeah, and I think a couple things allows you to pivot.
Yeah.
Right, because if you've built up that level of trust, the number of guys that went from dating into doing a business course, right? Or maybe not the best examples, but the guys who went from Forex into Bitcoin, right? It allows you to pivot and be able to sell other things. Ed Milet doing annuities, right? As another example, like where guys can switch. And you do that because you built a brand and you built the trust. So you're right. The brand can sell ice to an igloo.
Well, and think about to an Eskimo.
Ice to an Eskimo.
Yep.
Sorry.
So, I mean, think about Louis Vuitton, right?
Yeah.
They're the prime example of a brand. And it's like, dude, these guys sell shirts that are $5 and they get $1,000 for them. It's crazy. Yeah. Imagine that your brand is that powerful that you just put an LV on it and it 1,000 X's.
Yeah. The other thing I really loved, because I was, me selling a course, you mentioned something that I really liked, and it was like, so a lot of people are trying to bootleg my course. If you go on Reddit right now, I shouldn't even be saying this. My team's going to be furious, but you're not going to, they're all ripping you off. None of it's the real course. But people, I've seen 100 different people, MOA courses for cheap, all this kind of stuff. And they're just trying to rip off the actual videos. And I was like, and I was trying to explain to some of the guys in the company, I was like, they're not going to win by doing that. And I didn't put it the right way, but you did. Because you said you're paying for community, systems, and feedback. Mm-hmm. And so that's what they're also getting when they're paying for the course, not just the video modules.
We don't even sell courses standalone.
Okay. No, neither do we. But I'm just saying, can you go into that idea, the other things that you get along? They could, if they copied all your content, they still don't get you.
Yeah.
Because of the feedback in the community.
Yeah, we had a workshop 2 weeks ago. And I told everyone, I go, hey, why are you guys here, right? People, had varying reasons why they were here. As a real estate workshop. And, I go, guys, we were just talking about the concept of why people buy things, right? I was like, why did you buy this workshop? I was just asking them. I'm like, you can watch all the YouTube videos, and I'm going to cover everything we do in this workshop. I've covered it at some point on YouTube, right? So why fly out to Vegas? Why pay thousands of dollars to be here? Why'd you do it? And people are like, well, I want to scale my business. There's different reasons I'm here, right? I wanted to see the operation in person. And I'm like, the real reason that you're doing it is because, number one, you want to consolidate time. Because for you to go on YouTube and try and find all the things we're going to go through, it would take a ton of time. Paying to just come to 2 days to get it all, way easier, right? So you're trying to consolidate time. The second thing you're doing is feedback, like you mentioned, right? And I asked them, I go, hey guys, how many of you guys have watched my podcast? Everyone raised their hand. Mm-hmm. I go, how many of you guys have maybe watched more than 5? Everyone raised their hand. I'm like, so you guys have spent a lot of time with me. How many of you guys have actually done a deal? And like, not that many. Yeah. And I go, why? The content's out there for free.
Yeah.
It's all out there. And they're like, I don't know. I go, well, it's because you don't have community. You don't have anyone holding you accountable. Also, too, you had no skin in the game, right? When you only watch content for free, there's no skin in the game. So you have nothing to lose by not taking action. But I was like, the fact that you guys are all here, you took time, you spent money, you're sitting here, you're taking notes, you're invested now. Okay. So now it's a different story.
Community, accountability, the investment, time, then the feedback. Like these are all things that you're right. You can't steal the course and get that.
Well, and also too, the last thing I said was there's also this element of seeing is believing. And so when you're at an office or an event or something else, it's like, dude, I'm literally talking to this guy right now. Like, he's not just some guy on TV, you know, like,
yeah.
He's just not like this fake character that just seems not like you're right there in person and you're talking to me.
Do you ever
seeing is believing?
Do you ever jump on sales calls with your sales team?
No. I haven't done it in a long time.
All the time. Right now, I just shout out to Tyler. He said, "Hey, bro, can you jump on a call right now?" I will get on there and I will grill their ass, bro.
Yeah.
Like there's a point in the call where like the guy's making the excuses, and at first I was like, "Oh, this is a legitimate excuse." After you hear the excuse the same time over and over again, like, bro, this is not an excuse, and I show them hundreds of clients that have gotten over the excuse.
Yeah.
I'm too fat. I'm too old. I'm Indian. I'm Asian. I'm too short. I don't have money. Like it's the same ones over there. My wife left me, blah, blah, whatever the thing is. Networking is for me. This is going to take too much time. I don't have the money. Like it's the same ones.
Yeah.
And it just and I get on there and I'm like, how's your life going now? How's everything working for you right now, bro? Is this what you wanted? Is it like, and you get it to them and it feels good to do that. But I also know that there's no possible way I could do this long term.
Yeah, it's not scalable.
Not being scalable.
The funny thing is, at the events, I'll do it.
Yeah.
Right? Because I'm there and like they're taking pictures and all this stuff, right? And I always make fun of the sales team because, and I push the sales team. Like I want to create a competitive culture. Like I'm always trying to think of ways to keep it going. But it's funny because my close is so different than theirs, right? My close is just buy it, dude. And then people buy it. And they're just like,
Ryan Pineda just told me to buy it. I have to do it.
Yeah, he's right here. Like, I'm like, you're really not going to buy it? That's my close. And they buy it, right? And the sales team.
It's such a like high school, like peer pressure thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure I can just see it working.
Oh, it works every time.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, yeah, you know what? You're right, Ryan. And I'll be like, what's your problem, sales guy? Like, you know, but it's just, you know, it just cracks me up. And they're like, dude, you don't have any sales skills. Okay. Like it's just, you're you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, still sold them.
Yeah. Still got the sale. All right. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
During the pandemic, I don't want to get anybody in trouble now, but with all the nightclubs here closed, and I go out a lot, and all the venues closed, and we started having these mansion parties. I don't know if you're aware.
Okay.
There were parties everywhere. Over in Tamayasu, I'm sure you know that whole area. And then the other place was Dragon Ridge.
Yeah.
750 Dragon Ridge had the sickest parties during the pandemic that, I mean, anybody had ever gone to. Photo shoots.
You know, my brokerage sold that.
And I do know that, which is why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
And it was $1 more expensive. Was 14 mil? Was that what it was? Or 11?
12.
It was 12.
Or no, it was 11,250.
Yeah, I don't know if the buyer wants us to say his name, but we all know him. He's a good buddy of mine. Can you talk about that whole situation, like you selling that house?
Yeah, so, you know, my brokerage and my partner, Nick, he had a relationship with the buyer and, you know, they knew each other from club days and stuff. And, you know, he ended up buying it. So I did not represent him, just to be clear. I'm not even an agent.
Yeah.
So, but, you know, my company did. And
You saw the house?
I saw the house. Yeah,
it's a beautiful house.
Yeah, no, I filmed a video at it. It did good.
You ever play basketball in there?
Oh, yeah.
Every time I go there, I just go hoop.
Just shoot hoops.
I just shoot it. There's a huge party going on. Yeah. We're having like a Maxim party, and I'm in there just like seeing if I can hit 10 threes in a row.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he got a great deal because, I mean, that house today is worth $20 million, so.
It is the closest thing to. Did you ever see Bilzerian's house, the Wish Mansion, and the house that Bilzerian had?
I filmed there too.
10979 Shalon Road. That's I think the closest allegory to that house is the 750 Dragon Ridge.
Yeah, you know what's interesting is, so I'm a member at Dragon Ridge.
Yeah.
And I bought 2 acres in Dragon Ridge too, and I was going to build something better.
Yeah.
But I'm kind of happy where I'm at now, so I've got the land for sale.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know the whole thing about the best way to do a deal was with other people's money?
Yeah.
My whole saying is the best way to throw a party is at someone else's house.
Someone else's house.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know what? The only thing I don't like about that house is it's just 4 stories, and it's just, man, I mean, there's been so many parties there. I wouldn't trust any part of that house.
What? Oh, no, it's beautiful.
No. I'm saying like cleanliness wise.
Oh, got it. Yeah. Yeah, that you don't even realize there's a fourth story. Like, and you finally go up the staircase to the, because the bowling alley is down at the bottom.
Yeah.
Man, it's so much good times at the house, man.
Yeah, if you guys want to hear it, go to my YouTube channel.
About selling that house?
Yeah.
Definitely want to check that out.
There's a huge house tour on that one and the Bel Air house that Bilzerian had.
Yeah, that one is crazy. Like, did you ever hear the story? So he bought it with it was a rent to buy agreement.
Okay.
And then it was a $5 million option that he had on the house to sell it anything above 30 million. I think that was it. And he got an offer for 60. And then the owner, this is Bilzerian's story. He said on my show, the owner said he wasn't willing to, so what was going to happen is Bilzerian was going to end up pocketing
30 mil.
No, minus the option. So 25 mil.
Yeah.
And the owner was like, I'm not letting you keep the 25 mil. So they got into litigation. And then he didn't accept the offer and then immediately rented to Wish after Bilzerian left. And so it's this really weird situation where, because Dan having the house made it the most popular party house in the world. 10979 Shalon Road was the most, bro, those parties were better. I've been to the Playboy Mansion several times. Those were the best parties anyone's ever thrown in the history of the world. And him having that house made the value actually go up.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of what you think, because the people around that house hated the fact that they were throwing those parties.
Yeah.
And the offer he got was so high that the guy was like, I'm not going to take your $5 million option and lose $30 million. And so that's essentially what happened. I don't know if you ever heard that story. It was crazy.
I haven't heard that story, but I don't know how he would get away with that without getting sued.
I think he did get sued. Yeah, but I don't know what happened. Or maybe he said that the offer wasn't in good faith, or I don't know. I don't want to put words in Dan's mouth. But what I do know is that Dan was then upset because it's like, after you did that, then you rent it to other people. And it's like, then they devalued the property, devalue the house. You know what I'm saying? So it didn't work out the same way. I don't know. I don't know how the whole thing works.
Yeah, Dan should have exercised his option. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to know the truth of what the deal was. And it's funny about Dan's house down the street here. That's where I used to live, a couple doors down.
Oh, you did on that? Yeah, I don't say the address here because he lives there currently.
Yeah.
But he doesn't live far from here. That place is crazy. That's a defensible position.
Mm-hmm.
There's walls and it's pretty crazy. We're playing.
I'm literally the next block over.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're playing Mario Kart. He's big into Mario Kart. Has 8 TVs up. We're all playing Mario Kart. And there's a door that goes down into the basement. I'm saying this for his own protection. There's a shotgun and several pistols right next to the door in case somebody gets some crazy ideas. And there's a guy who runs his house, not like a butler, but the guy who meets you at the door named Mason. And you can just see all the people this guy's killed. It looks like a dangerous man.
That's crazy.
It's really funny. Dan's house. Yeah. I mean, it's really cool going over there. We were having a meeting one time and you just don't even notice there's an AR-15 sitting next to the couch, in this little holster.
Just chilling
there. Everywhere you go, it was like that, man. It's pretty wild.
Is he, is his normal life just normal, or is he just always got girls and parties?
There's always girls there. He doesn't like to party. He's not super extroverted.
But there's just always girls.
There's always girls. He doesn't even have to try. Yeah, there's just always girls wanting to come over and visit him. And then he'll have some events, and then just they'll source them. So Masha was doing this for a while. My friend Masha did it, but girls will apply for a casting to work at Ignite, and then he'll have an event, and then the girls will just want to stay there for a week or whatever. Right. And it's he doesn't ever hit on, this is really true. He never hits on girls. They just throw themselves at him.
Right.
Most women are not going to throw themselves at Dan, but Dan's life is such that the women who do want to throw themselves at him funnel their way into his life. So from his experience, it's nothing but women throwing themselves at him. And so the other thing is when I hang out with Dan, so let's say it's me, Dan, and 4 other dudes. Right, so let's say there's 6 of us, and let's say there's 20 girls. It's not 4 girls for each of us, bro. It's 20 girls for Dan, and the rest of you guys need to just play chess or paintball and just ignore the women because they're here for him. Wow. That is one thing you have to. If you ever hang out with Dan, do not think you're just gonna slop off. They're there for Dan. That's essentially what's going on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's funny. It's pretty cool. Yeah, it's pretty cool hanging out with him. All right, so the other thing I was going to say is we'll close up here pretty quick. The hair, where does the hair come from? You get comments on the hairstyle?
Yeah, I just dyed it black. Well, it's supposed to be a smoke gray a little bit. It's hard to tell, but it was red earlier. But no, dude, I've been doing my hair like this for 6 years.
Yeah.
And when I was getting on social media, people were always commenting on it. I was like, what the heck, dude? I didn't even think it was a big deal, but people were always talking about it. And so one day, it's you know what, then? I'm just going to really let them talk about it. So I'll just start dyeing it.
Different colors.
So, dyed it a bunch of colors. And I like to have fun with it.
Do you ever get it straightened?
No.
Okay.
No. My hair naturally goes like this.
Straight. Okay.
Like I don't use a blow dryer. I don't use anything.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It's Filipino hair.
I had a lot of people comment on that.
On the hair.
He's the one with the hair.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know what's interesting is, you don't want to be generic, right? So it's like you can recognize, if you can identify somebody based on a characteristic, that's always a good thing.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, Hormozy's the guy who just wears the wife beater and Crocs, like the super jack guy.
You know how like motivating that is when he's wearing Crocs and like these torn up ass shorts on stage.
Yeah.
And it's the honey, I'm telling my girlfriend, it's not the $50 million offer. It's the $100 million offer.
Yeah.
You see those shorts he's got on? That's what he's doing right there. You see that? See the beard?
Yeah.
Like, that's it. Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And you just see these guys like James Harden with the beard. You see, there's not many of them, honestly, that you could just point out their characteristics and you would know who they're talking about. So to have something is, people should really go for it.
You know what? It's funny. It's totally random. I was thinking about this. Have you ever seen the video where Grant Cardone is under a bench press?
No.
And he's doing the bench press. And it's hilarious because there's 5-pound weights on each side. And at first I was like, does Grant not know that there are 5-pound weights on it? Like I would put fake weights. I would never put 5-pound weights on a 45-pound bar. And then I realized, no, he's playing chess and we're playing checkers and he knows that I'm going to comment on this. And I literally send it to my friend who's a bodybuilder. I'm like, do you see Grant Cardone bench pressing 50 pounds? What is this? And I was like, no, Grant, I've been fooled. Grant obviously did this on purpose.
Yeah.
And it was really funny watching that, man. I just remember like these little details that you catch, you know? And I'll steal something like that. I'll be like, I'll get in there in the gym and I'll be in the 25-pound bar. I'm like, do you want to get strong like us?
That's funny.
Yeah.
Or because you can't be. So I guess that's the point with it, right? You can't be just generic run of the mill, right? So you're either gonna be like Grant and just like making it funny, or you're gonna go lift crazy weight and people are like, damn, that's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy. Like when you think about it, like fitness influencers now, like the idea of not being on steroids, when you see them, like they're all fucking huge and roided up, and you're like, what? You don't even just imagine being the natural, fitness influencer. Yeah. Or if you are a natural fitness influencer and you look like that, no one thinks you aren't taking steroids.
Right.
So you get into that whole situation.
Yeah. I was talking to Brandon Carter about that because he just got on TRT.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, dude, like all these guys are on it. He's like, but some aren't. He's like, some aren't, and they're just super jacked.
Yeah, I don't think Greg O'Gallagher is on anything because he's just not a big dude. He's just like strong as shit.
Yeah,
right?
He just takes care of himself.
I know guys on roids, they're bigger than Greg O'Gallagher. If Greg O'Gallagher's on steroids, then he's like really small for being on. That's why I believe him.
Yeah.
With all. And the other thing is, I don't even mind if dudes are on roids and doing that. That's not the issue for me.
Yeah.
I guess the issue would be like, I guess maybe detrimental as far as other people following them and not realizing, like the Michael Hearn thing, you know what I'm saying, or The Rock, who's clearly taking fucking something, and he's like all natural. I don't care that you're not all natural. It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah. Well, the problem is with like Hollywood celebs is they can't say it.
Yeah.
They're just probably in their contracts, and they cannot say what they did to get that role and whatever. But no, it's crazy because obviously I came from the sports world where all that stuff's illegal. So I've always been super against it. I'm like, bro, freaking like get that stuff out of my face. And so for the last 12 years, I've literally been 180 pounds and like give or take 5 pounds. And I've stayed strong. Yeah. Just, I'm not like this huge guy, but about 5 weeks ago, for the first time, I finally got on TRT and peptides.
Okay.
And I've literally gained 8 pounds in 5 weeks.
Isn't it crazy?
And I'm like, what the heck is going on? I'm like, I'm not even on like the crazy stuff that these guys are on. I'm like, no wonder. Like, these guys are so crazy.
The thing is, it's like scurvy. Scurvy is a vitamin C deficiency. Most people don't have a vitamin C deficiency, but if you have one, then vitamin C is a miracle cure. And if you have low testosterone and you take TRT is not for everyone, but if you have low testosterone and you take it, it's a miracle cure. Yeah. Like for me, I'm 45 years old and my girlfriend's over 20 years younger than me, and I can keep up with her because I'm on TRT, right? I mean, that helps a lot. I definitely don't. I'm telling you right now, I'm not be doing the show and doing 12 hours of content a week if I'm not on this stuff.
Right.
Or it helps significantly. But yeah, it is one of those weird situations. I was going to ask you if you would ever consider taking. You're 34, 30.
Yeah, 34.
34. Yeah, I'm 40. I didn't start till I was 43 years old.
Right.
Started taking
TRT.
TRT.
I think it hasn't become this big public thing until the last few years.
Yeah.
Like, you know, once again, right, I came from the sports world, so all of it was illegal. So I was like, I'm never doing that anyway. And then, like, I meet all these entrepreneurs who are on it, and I'm like, for what?
Every one of them, bro.
Yeah.
Every single one of them.
Yeah. So in my mind, it's not even like out of jealousy or envy. Well, I guess, let's just say, like, back in sports, you know, you would get pissed at guys that were on it because you're like, dude, this freaking guy's a cheater. Like,
yeah.
And then in my mind, I'm like, yeah, these guys are cheating. But I'm like, wait a minute, there's no drug test. Like, there's nothing. Anyone could do anything. Like, we're just YouTubers, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, why are you taking it, right? Like, what's the purpose? And it's like, what's getting huge going to do for you, right? Like, I'm married for 10 years. I got 3 kids. I don't need to get huge. But I had somebody clearly explain to me the benefits of each one of these things. He's like, all right, you want more energy to be better at your job and be a better dad? And I'm like, yeah, okay. You want XYZ to think more clear? You want this to lose more fat? And I go, okay, but what are the side effects? He's like, there are none. Like, these are just like, you know, especially with the peptides. And I'm like, man, you're telling me these aren't like the steroids I grew up with.
Correct.
Where they just destroy you.
Correct. They destroy your endocrine system. The reason why people don't grasp the difference between TRT and steroids is like this is a super physiological level of exogenous testosterone, which causes your body to shut down. When you do TRT, you can also take other things like kisspeptin, gonadotropin, or HCG that will cause your body to continue to produce testosterone, but it's at a lower level just because you're older. And then when you take it, what you're doing is you're getting to the levels that you were when you were 19.
Yeah.
That's not super physiological because when you were 19, your liver and kidneys were able to handle your 700 total tests or your 800 or your 900 total tests. You're just going back to that level that your body was already able to handle previously. Right. That's the reason. And people don't understand that, and they think that it's something that it's not.
Yeah.
In those type of situations. With the peptides, one like Summerellin is a great example. It's not actual HGH, but it makes your body produce its own HGH.
Yeah.
Thymosin is, you know how inside when you cut the inside of your mouth, you know how it heals faster?
Yeah.
Right. Well, that peptide that causes your body to heal faster, they just inject it into your body. It's your own BPC 157 thymosin is just basically it causes a lack of inflammation to cause your body to heal faster. But it's using things that your body was already doing.
Right.
And that's the reason I'm 4 for 4 on peptides. Every peptide I've taken has worked exactly the way it was told to. Like, I can't even believe, I know some people are taking that Ozempic, right? You know what I'm talking about? It's semaglutide. It makes you, you just don't want to eat.
Yeah, I have that.
You just don't eat.
Well, I still eat.
Yeah, but I'm saying, but like it doesn't like it's not like fen where you're like twitching and shit, or you don't feel nauseous. You just like the necessity to eat is just not there as much.
Well, and you know, so like this is like kind of the conversation that I had that convinced me to do it, and you know, we're talking about all the same things you're talking about, but at the end of the day, the thing that I couldn't grasp my head around was like, well, once you get on TRT, you're on it for life, right? And I'm like, I mean, dude, I don't want to be like on this for life. And then I started to think, well, what else am I on for life? And I was like, I have to take protein every day. I have to work out, you know, freaking every day almost. I have to maintain my calories. I have to take all my supplements I take already, just the normal vitamins and stuff. I'm like, I'm already on things for life. Like, what difference is this?
Yeah.
And so at that point, logically, I could not find a reason not to do it. And I said, all right, well, let's try it out. And now, you know, like I said, it's only been 5 weeks and I'm already up 8-9 pounds. You know, from last time I saw you at the office, like I've gained already a lot of weight. And I'm just thinking, okay, this industry is like growing rapidly because people didn't even know about this stuff 5 years ago, right? So now I'm like, all right, this is a new business opportunity. Like, you know, there's just so much to it. And it's like truly helping a lot of people.
Yeah, it is pretty great. Yeah, and there's a difference between going to see an endocrinologist and then going to see a TRT doctor. Endocrinologist is totally fine with you with a total test level of 200. But I'm like, what if I want to have sex with my wife? I'm not going to have sex with my wife at 200.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, oh, well, you're not going to get, you know, you're not going to get prostate cancer. I'm like, yeah, but I want to have sex with my wife. I want to run a business though. Can we get up to 600?
And that's the point too, where it's like, well, the acceptable range is, you know, 250 to 900. And it's like, what the heck?
250 to, dude, 250, I would be so fat and depressed.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That's just me. Some people can do fine on 250, but like I just can't.
Yeah. I mean, when I first I got a blood test for the first time when I was 33. And before I took I wasn't taking any multis, any DHEA. I wasn't taking anything. And my test was like 350. And I was like, I'm fine. Like, I still crush it. I film all my content.
Yeah.
I still lift heavy weights. Like, I'm good. And I naturally got it up to like 500 with just all these Amazon supplements, right? And then I was like, well, let's see what happens. And so, you know, now I don't know where my levels are at now.
Wait till week 10 and then tell me how you feel. Message me after week 10 and tell me how you feel.
Okay.
It was at week 10 at that point I was like, I want to go play football again. I am ready to play tackle in a high school football game right now.
What my team has told me, they're like, bro, you're way more intense than you used to be.
Yeah.
And not like aggressive, but they're like, you're just intense and like focused. And it's funny because one of my partners, I met him in 2018, and he was like, that was what he told me back in 2018. He's like, bro, you were such an intense person back then. You've really kind of like, I guess, mellowed out.
Yeah.
He's like, dude, you're like super intense again. And it made me think, I was like, well, I was just coming out of baseball, you know, where I'm like ultra competitive and like probably my T was way higher back then. And now, you know, I don't want to say you get complacent, but I don't really get to compete and like really go dominate.
The other thing is the number of people that stop taking like, it's not Ritalin, what's it called? Adderall.
Yeah.
When they get on TRT, they stop taking Adderall. They just don't need, because the ability to focus.
Yeah.
A lot of people just stop needing that stuff.
Yeah, and it's like things like Adderall. Once again, I don't know the side effects and everything, but it's just like, to me, Adderall doesn't seem that great for you.
Yeah, it's got caffeine and stuff. It's a stimulant, right? The TRT is not a stimulant. So it is really interesting. But yeah, like there are times when I'm like, it doesn't make me aggressive. It makes me very calm and extremely focused.
Exactly.
But also, like, it does make me competitive.
Exactly.
Right? And I like, so now for my in-person coaching, we play basketball, and these guys are beating the crap out of each other. It's so fun. I make my sales team compete with it. So fun. Yeah, awesome, man. All right, so I would love to go longer, but I can't because I got another call here in a little bit, and I'm super happy we finally got to connect, man. I've been obviously following a lot of your stuff. You know, I've heard a lot of people, you're one of the first names that come up when people are like, because I realized you lived here. So it was really awesome to get to pick your brain about, you know, where I think you're obviously a little further than me, but like going through similar situations, especially when it comes to like a sales team or advertisement or stuff like that. And it's really great to converse with more like-minded people who are kind of in the same situation. Because when I go back home to the East Dallas, I can't have these conversations. You know?
Yeah.
You know, my buddy who he went to jail, he's like, he doesn't really understand what a sales team is.
Yeah.
So it's a different type of conversation.
What are you selling?
Yeah, what are you selling? That's how I ended up in jail.
Yeah.
From selling. Anyway, man, great to talk to you. Where can people find you?
Yeah, anywhere on the internet, man. I mean, social media is everywhere, and you know, like you mentioned, I got the Wealthy Way podcast, and we have, you know, books, courses, and all that for free at wealthyway.com that people can access.
Yeah, it is great. You give away a ton of stuff for free. Move the free line.
Yep.
Yeah, I've had people hit me up about this too. They're like, they think they can't give away their best stuff for free. And if you think that you have some proprietary information that I can explain in 2 sentences that you're building a business around, you don't have it.
Yeah.
You don't. It's like you said, it's the most important thing. It's the feedback, it's the accountability. It's also the one-on-one coaching. I also think is a big deal, and the community.
Yeah.
Right. Those things you can't just steal.
Yeah.
On video. So that's awesome, man. Thank you guys for joining us, man. I've been gone for a couple of weeks, so I'm really excited to be back in studio. It's funny because I have Ryan Pineda and Ryan Stuman and Ryan Ponwall back to back. So that's pretty interesting. I'm going to mix in Nicolette Shea there is somewhere in the group. I really appreciate you guys joining us. We're coming up on episode number 100. I do have something special for you for that. But thank you guys for checking this out. Like, share, and subscribe, and I will see you all next week.